Oh, I'm burpy. The reason why is because I started dropping in maybe like 15 minutes prior, and I energetically burp and clear things. And this is like a really big topic. I was
For
laughing to myself. So I'm
clearing,
like, man, I feel like I'm burping out the entire fourth dimension. And it's
Uh,
like, imagine this is your everyday normal existence. You're literally belching out full blown debris out of different pockets and spaces within consciousness and creation.
you see, the process is the process, so we all have
Yeah.
our ways of doing it. No, I've heard of others having that same type of vibe. I did listen to quite a few
Oh,
of the
yay.
transmissions that you have um in your website there, and just throughout the day at work, I was really just like, yes, 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 because you're saying stuff, and you're saying it in a way, the tone that you come through with, the emphasis that you place on certain words, that is the same type of language that um, others are not speaking. Um, it's just, it's really comforting to me uh, to know that, oh, I'm not really as crazy as I know that I'm not already, because it gets kind of difficult when you walk through life and you don't hear anybody saying the stuff that you want to say, and you're not saying the stuff that you probably should be saying because nobody's around you that's even capable of hearing. In the Bible, there's just the Jesus character, and he says, "Let him who hath an ear hear me." He's saying basically, do any of y'all even have ears? Not are you deaf? Can you hear me? Do you even have ears?
Mhm.
And I just wanted to let you know that I definitely have ears and can hear what you've been putting out, and I'm honored to be here with you. Thank you for spending your time with me.
No, I really appreciate the invitation and opportunity. It's been a long time in the divine making
Yeah.
that we are meeting here today and doing this. And it's so special to me, no matter how many times someone reaches out to me and lets me know how my work or my words has reached them and is impacting them. Like every time it moves me, like every time I feel it. And I've practiced through time as well as a part of my process of receiving, because so many of us need to work on receiving, especially those givers, which is who I work with,
Yeah.
our giver types. We're so giving that we're literally birthing a new paradigm through our existence here.
You see, statements like that, literally, you say you're literally birthing a new paradigm, and the whole day, um, prior to even starting to listen, as I was driving, had my earbuds in, um, the whole day I've just been stuck on this realization that right now, interesting that we're doing this today, in fact, because it does indeed seem to me that right now is the time that all of this begins, all of this being all of this stuff that has kind of guided me to this point where I'm doing this podcast and everything. And I keep receiving the message of this is literally what's happening right now. That's why everywhere you look, you're just receiving more and more confirmation. It's not even that something outside of you is trying to convince you of something. You already know, Ethan says me to me. So do yourself a favor and get with your own program, because we're going this way anyways. We're going to go down this path, and we're going to fulfill our purpose for which we incarnated, and the imagination of myself is not going to get in the way of that. Imagination of myself being, I term it Ethan because it's my government name. It's what's on my little card. But I'm so much more. I'm it's hard to put it into words, but you do a good job of it. And coming from the same type of realm, I'm not sure what language I want to use here, but for being so um, advanced, uh, is a very difficult thing to come to terms with, especially if you're someone like me or like you, because I heard you make this statement in one of the transmissions today. I'm I'm not an arrogant person. I don't walk around filled with just a bunch of egotistical hubris. I try my best to just humbly walk through life and this and that, but then I sit down with myself and I catch a glimpse of the me behind me, and it's so immense that I say, "Holy shit!" And then my inner voice is saying, "Yeah, holy shit! What have you been doing this whole time? Let's get with the program." Um, and so all day today, I just got it. It was just extremely clear that I'm starting back with recording these episodes after a year. This past year has been a year, that's for sure. But I'm starting back, and with me starting back, there is a ripple effect just by us interacting or coming across one another at all. There's a ripple effect just from that, and so much more so when this is released, when someone listens to it and suddenly you're synchronistically saying to them exactly what they needed to hear, and they hear me follow up with it later on. And they're just like, how? And then one of us probably says something to the effect of, on purpose. And it's, I really feel like the time is now where I stop procrastinating, or I stop wishing that I didn't have the path to walk that I have to walk, because, life gets tough and stuff. But it's literally why we're here. We're not here to pay bills and taxes, and it's just it blows my mind the way our minds are trained to deceive ourselves, to keep us hidden in the
belittle us.
illusion. Yeah. Yeah.
Literally belittle us. So in, work that I do with one-on-one clients, it always comes up in all of my client work that's ongoing, of like a big self, small self. When you're talking about, you see the Ethan that's standing behind you, and you're like, holy fuck, looking at the immensity of your spirit, the actual truth that exists within your soul composition, the power that is palpable when you actually see it. And oftentimes what people do is they retract back and they almost cringe and shut down and go small, because this world has taught us to be small. The world has manipulated us out of our power, out of the truth of our existence.
Our birthright.
People understand, and when they understand their fuller nature, they are much less willing to make compromises with an illusionary reality that attempts to convince them that they are less than they are. And this is when we step into our higher path and our higher purpose, and we do it with gusto, because we know the immensity that is like the tidal wave that's flowing behind us is more powerful than any projected illusionary, quote unquote, reality, that it will propel them and also us as a collective forward. And that is what I'm here for. This is why I am teaching people out of being humble. I'm like, no, you can be accurate. Be accurate with where you're at, even including within your human incarnated current embodiment. Okay, we want accuracy, but you don't want to humble yourself in the sense that you're actually making yourself smaller and less powerful than you are. All of us, everyone here has been convinced outside of themselves and to their smaller, lesser, confined natures. And so what we really need is to be willing to receive ourselves at the true immensity that we are, instead of having the cringe effect, integrating the larger container and capacity of light, etc., that we actually are. And clearly my transmissions are repetitiously inviting people into exactly that.
You talk about being arrogant or this or that. How arrogant is it for you to be this being that is literally larger than life, wrapped in human flesh here again, and you have knowledge of it, you don't tell anybody, but how arrogant is it of you to then keep that hidden away and you don't do anything with it, you refuse to let yourself believe it.
How
That's an
suppressive is it? How suppressive is it to our existence? How negligent is it
Yes,
to our souls and all of existence?
and
Right?
detrimental.
It's a lack of actually honoring ourselves and life itself and allowing the life force that wants to breathe through us and create our highest level of provision, which I define as our mastery. Your mastery is literally the life force that is moving through your true soul's essence and then creates out into this physicalized plane. That is what creates new paradigms. That is what shifts this earth plane. And so we are being dishonoring to ourselves and our souls and negligent to our even acknowledging ourselves as creators, collaborators, and contributors of the larger container that encases this collective that includes all of us. So when you care for all of life,
Mm.
you allow your true nature to be spoken and expressed. You start to hold and own the immensity that you are. And yes, there will be people like I face consistently on social media that want to call it ego. That people who call it ego, they are actually in their ego. They're actually dealing with the patterns and programs that completely intertwined with ego. They are retracting in your power, and then they need to project onto you their limited ideas.
They need for you to be littler.
Exactly. Exactly. And so it is because I care for all of life that I allow the accuracy of my soul to be spoken and expressed. And I am doing so in order to model to everyone that they are allotted permission to hold and own the truth that they are. If we are to have any inheritance that would be ours and ours alone, would it not be the truth of our soul?
Mm.
You're telling me I can't pick up my inheritance? You're telling me I can't remember my history? You're telling me that I cannot contribute to this collective to the highest levels that my soul is capable of, and that is unloving of me? No. Look, we're going to be with truth. If you're spending time with me, then what we're going to do is we're going to allow truth in the room and we're going to hold it.
You know, when I first came across your uh, Facebook profile, I was studying the thematic elements behind this artist, his album Snakes and Birds. I had just found this image that I use as my kind of branding image for my music, and it's a hawk with a snake wrapped around his legs, and then my inspiration, my idol over here in the rap world, the only guy that I really pay attention to that really speaks really deeply to me. He puts out this album. He says, "Yeah, here's Snakes and Birds. Enjoy it, Hawkeye." And so I'm listening to it, and I start researching the symbology of snakes and birds, and it takes me down this path that just goes really deep in the symbology of it all. And I'm sitting here listening to the album and reading about what he's talking about, and I'm like, holy shit, wow, this is exactly why I have to go do my music stuff, because thank God he made this album. It's just funny the rest of it lines up the way it does. It's kind of comical. But then I came across this uh other word in the article there somewhere. I've looked for it before. I haven't been able to find it again, but it speaks of this place or this realm that the article or book or whatever it was I was reading referred to as Tula, Tula. And at the time that I ran across your profile, the synchronicity of that and what you had as your last name there, Tulip, at the time was, I was like, oh. And then I started listening to the videos that you post, this and that, and I say, holy shit, there's somebody doing it, and they're not doing it the way that this rap guy over here was with cryptic lyrics, this and that. She may not make the words rhyme as much as I do, but she's just straightforward and in your face as she has to be because somebody's got to. Because none of us came here to not be us. I remember my remembrance experience. In one step, I was little old me walking out to greet the sun. And before my foot hit the ground, it all came back. And my first thought was, it took me this long to regain control of my vehicle, just to take a breath with my own, a conscious breath. It took that long. And I look around and say, what hope is there for y'all? Because I know who I am and where I come from. It took me this long. And I got really angry. How dare y'all forget all of this that we once knew and let it get this far away? But it's no problem because I'm here now and I'm more than enough, but I'm not alone. And so far, I've met you, but I know that the others are there. I see them, and in seeing them, I see that my part of my path is to gather them together to say, hey, you and you, go to the store and get me the same thing so that y'all bump into each other and have some out of this world conversation, because the impact that y'all are going to have is so far beyond anything that I could do today. But I got to make the connection because y'all don't even see it. Mm-hmm. And it's just the beauty of the way nature works and the beauty of life when you are living your life instead of trying to survive whatever game this is in the physical that we're playing with, the money stuff and just everything else. I've gotten to the point to where I don't even like to bitch about how bad things are because it doesn't do any good, and it doesn't matter because things are changing in this lifetime in major ways. And anybody who's listening to this, go look up her stuff and see if she's not saying the same stuff you hear me say. We all need to remember that ancient wisdom.
Yes. I have a multi-dimensional tool. So we all do. When we reach beyond the veil, I facilitate multi-dimensional integration. My very presence and proximity to me, even someone could be listening to this podcast and have an activation from it because Definitely. They're listening to this and hearing my voice and I'm calling it in. And I am a major portal. So people being in my presence oftentimes will start to remember themselves. They will literally start to remember past lives and different dimensions and planetary systems through which they come from, which is what I essentially heard you saying when you took that step. And all of a sudden it was like, this is the essence, the larger essence that is me.
This concept of, and we'll just turn to Ethan for conversation's sake. This concept of Ethan didn't just like sink in the backdrop while I came to the forefront. It disappeared as if it was never there in the first place. And it was just, thank you. I finally caught myself off guard so I could take back the driver's seat, the reins, a step, a breath. And of course, just crossing the path of a soul like you is going to shift the atmosphere around anybody that comes across it. And the point of me putting together these conversations and putting it on a podcast and titling it Beneath the Surface is because I want to find the people who carry the medicine that is so potent that they're having a remembrance experience too, because all these problems in the world, they get fixed not by us. Oh, what are we going to do? All we got to do is remember
ourselves.
And then it takes care of itself.
It does. There's grace in remembering yourself. And I'm not saying that it doesn't take effort. It doesn't take,
it's definitely a process
and commitment, right? That's also why I'm a facilitator, because I'm supporting people through that deep level integrative process of coming home to yourself. I mean, there's so many layers and levels to that, including the grief that you experience when you see through the veil and you realize what, for example, you've been making acceptable that was unacceptable, or how much of yourself you had been missing for so long. And now it's coming home and you can see yourself. And then you're looking out into a world that frequently can't see you and is still unable to see you, even though you are coming so home to your own wholeness, which is also a part of what I do as a seer and a divine mirror. I'm able to reflect to people their true essence. And this is why people in my presence and even listening to my voice will start to come home to themselves and start to remember themselves and start having past life remembrance and otherworldly dimensional remembrance, and also bringing home their what I call multidimensional tools, which are actually an extension of our soul. So like, for example, I have this thing that is see yourself, and I'll put my hand up. I do it in some of my courses and my workshops because it's so very palpable. I prepare people for it. And what I'm doing is I'm actually holding up a mirror that blasts light, pure and purifying light out of my hand, out of that mirror. And I say, see yourself, see yourself. And it lights up people's souls. It activates some of their cellular DNA that has been dormant for far too long, but it exists there. It lives there. And because I am a divine mirror, because I am a seer, because I am living an embodiment of mastery in this lifetime that was always meant for me, I am able to show people in that process who they are. And I can see, like I see, oh, people can feel me when they're in session with me, because I speak to the deeper essence of who they are. And I can speak to it in this dimension. I can speak it relative to their physical existence here. I can speak it relative to their light quotient. I can hear their divine child within their inner child parts. I am receiving so much of a person when I am with them. Imagine what happens when you're sharing presence with someone who truly sees you, feels you, can experience you, remembers you. I've been all over around the galactic, so I know a lot of souls. So a lot of souls that come into my space have also known me. And so I'm connecting them with all of these different points. I call them proximity points within creation. There's a quantum field, and there actually really are locations. They're by energetic essence. And so if you could look at it like almost like a quantum map, I can pick up parts and pieces that have been your fragments that have dispersed throughout creation itself, throughout the quantum field, and I can feel all of you simultaneously and then speak it back to you. You're literally getting to stand in the presence of your own essence through my ability to see and be a divine mirror. That is an incredible, beyond incredible, soul satiating experience to have, most especially here on earth when we have been dealing with the outcome of what I call the fall. And the fall is a part of us literally de-evolving. It's a large de-evolving portal that creates amnesia. It creates disempowerment. It creates source disconnection. So when you're standing in the presence of someone who can hold all that you are in space with you, it's going to be an experience that you likely haven't ever had on earth.
And it's going to make you say, holy shit, life really is. I always knew it was about more than, and then you catch a glimpse of it. The thing that really trips me out is if you study yoga, and I'm talking about the philosophy of yoga, not so much the exercise, whatever they've turned it into, you realize that this is an ancient practice that's still in nobody really knows the exact start dates of it coming into being, but it's all designed specifically to get you to this state where you are able to catch a glimpse of what? Of your soul. And, you know, they speak of all these gods, this and that, and I'm reading this book, and they say, oh, they didn't catch a glimpse of, insert Hindu god name here. They caught a glimpse of themselves, and they didn't have a context to explain it to themselves in, other than to externalize it, because it's so far beyond anything that's them, because we got to be little, like you said. I'm so glad that you used that word at the start of this, because the message to myself over the past 3 to 4 days has been, be bigger, be better, be so much more than you even allow yourself to think or see when you look into the future that you're headed. Go beyond that, because we need it. The earth needs it. The trees need it. The sun, rain, and tree, that balance needs humanity to get off of their knees, as David Icke said. He was one of those people out there talking on the big stage too, saying things that I was not going to hear anywhere else that I needed to hear then. But this has been a process of, this was 2017, the little walk in the yard experience. But prior to that, we started 2008. So I had to ease myself into it so that my physical mind would be able to digest a very simple concept that's everywhere if you read between the lines of any stories or religious whatevers, anything related to what could be called God, this and that. And when it clicks, when someone like you comes across our path and kind of jolts us back to reality, it's definitely something that changes the trajectory of where you thought your life was going, because you, Jesus said you got to be born again. I live in the South, so there's a bunch of Christian references from churches, and I went all through that and had to, God grew outside of that box, so to speak. He says you must be born again. Maybe what he was saying was you got to be born before you can live, and y'all are all just dead walking around. So
So
thank
my
you for doing your sacred work, because it damn sure keeps me inspired to say, hey, let me not go over here and fuck around because I'm sad or whatever, or I had to work late. Let me go get back to writing this story. Let me finish this song. Let me rearrange all my tools here and utilize them to literally change the very fabric of the world that we live in before I'm dead. Because not only do we all deserve that, the earth deserves it. And think of all of the children who will have to live through what we allowed to become. And I say we allowed it because every time we turn a blind eye, the what's right is, imagine you driving 90 miles an hour down the interstate. You just close your eyes. Why? You don't want to see it. It's too fast. This doesn't make any sense. That's what we're doing. That's
mm-hmm,
what we've been doing.
mm-hmm,
And I'm so glad that I get to sit here and speak with someone who's speaking louder than all of the nonsense with authority.
mm-hmm.
That's what comes through so clearly. And that's what pulls my ear to the specifics, the words you're using, and causes me to breathe a sigh of relief and say, thank God I'm not alone.
Mm-hmm.
As far as getting in front of people in the public eye and saying all of the things that the entire system is hell-bent on making sure that we don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most dangerous thing they could ever do, is to let people talk about where we're from and why we're here. That's the interesting part to me. Not so much where we're from, but why are we here again? Because it's obvious we're here again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And every time it's the same story. Oh, you almost won. Sorry, I'm gonna reset the board. See you again in another X amount of. You get
But
it.
the truth is that now is the time, exactly what you were saying. And that's what makes this life so different.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am able to travel time and space and multiple dimensions. And I'm also an architect, and I did create a large portion of the blueprint for the current trajectory of Earth that's happening. I have insider view into exactly what has been going on and what's going to be going on and where we are evolutionarily in creation, not just like being here as a part of Earth history, which is a layer of it, but I'm talking about the larger expanse of what is creation's trajectory.
Yeah.
I teach about creation's trajectory
When you
and
were
where
speaking,
we're at within that larger cycle.
when
I
you were
also wanted to speak to this zombies on Earth thing that we're also mentioning here, which of course does relate to, again, what I have called the fall, this amnesia. See, when I arrived here, and like you said, accurate, we've so many of us have been here. We've been here before. We've been here repeatedly, many, many times, because we were here to, and many of us contracted to a particular higher purpose in creation and also upon Gaia. And some of us were also stuck here due to the architecture that is related to the actual fall, which I say and describe as a de-evolving portal. It's actually kept our souls here. Some beings have actually wanted to leave, but could not, unfortunately. So we're having a mass turnover that's going to be taking place and is currently taking place. Life on Earth is going to be a very different experience. So when I came here advanced. I had so many lifetimes on Earth, inside of Earth, Gaia's core, her firmament, this galaxies beyond it. Like, I'm literally an OG within creation. I am a hella old soul. I've been around many a blocks.
The term that I use is ancient soul.
Mm-hmm.
Old souls, yeah, you're still children, because that's why we're here with you, to say you don't get to sit back because you're not actually children, but in comparison, you are. And don't take that the wrong way, because that doesn't do any of us any good.
Right, because accuracy does us good.
I wanted to point out that when you were talking of different, you used a specific word. You were talking of different positions, and you said different locations, physical locations, and I wanted to add in. She's also speaking of different points in time as well. The big giant picture.
Yes. And the reason why I have access to that big giant picture is because I was literally one of the first beings ever to choose sovereignty and separateness.
Someone has to go
was
first.
The first being in all of creation when we were a collective. My nation of origination is an elemental species that is the everything and the nothingness. This is before there was separateness. That's where I come from. And we moved as a telepathic, unified field of consciousness that then would make decisions based on the fuller collective consensus about where we were going within creation. And I had this radical, beyond radical at the ancient time of why could I not go and have this sovereign separate journey? And the collective freaked the fuck out. But guess what? Source itself, the father of all of life and existence, is what permitted me to do that. And of course, we have been watching this experience, this experiment unfold for a very long time now. I actually teach because I have these memories, and I'm here to teach very, very high level things. I teach creation principles. I teach how creation creates. I teach how creation became. Like
the galactic
things that people say, this is impossible, we could never know this. I'm like, well, I'm actually here to let you know it.
How do you explain me telling you? And as I tell you, you know that I know it, and now you know it. You're welcome, because you're not arguing with it. And if you are, you're wasting your own time and all of us too.
Let people argue that. So when I'm talking about creation principles, I want to just be very clear here, because when we are inheritors of sacred knowledge and ancient wisdom, there is a responsibility to keep it sacred. And I take that very seriously. I work with pristine energetics, integrity containers of transformation. I am about pure form creation. Like, I am a perfectionist when it comes to these kind of things. And so the only people who are going to be learning about creation principles are the ones who are stepping into my mystery school, and they are walking with me through evolutionary and initiation processes for quite some time. And I know without a doubt, they are meant for that information. And that information, by the way, when you actually learn creation, that is the number one thing out of all things that could elevate and bring online your soul. So it literally activates a person's full soul code. I am not exaggerating. That is what it does. And so it's like, there again is a need Yes, I speak about how I teach these high level things, and I want to be very clear about the way that I teach them. This is not freebie information. This is hard earned through your soul journey, through your investment here to earth. Are you a new paradigm creator? Do you have benevolent intention? Do you have self-awareness and ownership? If you don't, then you're not going to be a recipient of my sacred knowledge and ancient wisdom.
It's like the allegory that you used of, or metaphor, or whatever, of building a house. You're not just going to go and slap some shit together. That's not only a waste of time, it's dangerous. And especially if it's not your house you're building, like that you're going to live in, you better do it right. I work in heating and air, and when I'm putting in the gas burning unit underneath your house, I better know what I'm doing so that you don't blow up or die of carbon monoxide poisoning. I have to be skilled at it. That means everybody that might want to come work with me, my buddies and friends, they got to listen to me when we're there, and they hold my tools, because they don't know, and someone, it gets very serious. And that's how life is, because it's not a game.
This is why I don't like simulation theories.
Mm.
When people
Yeah,
attempt
exactly.
to make Gaia a video game,
Mm.
you know what that is? That's irreverent. And what we need here more on earth is reverence. And that's where we take seriously our contribution, our very existence, and the ripple effects that move through us and into all of creation through the choices that we make here. I take my choices very seriously because I care for all of life. I care for every person who comes in proximity to me. I care for Gaia. I care for the animals. I care for every single little fiber that is seen and unseen within all of creation. And that is why I show up. That is what I am here for. Benevolent evolution, my main purpose.
And that's exactly it. I wouldn't use the same words, but I'd say the same thing if someone were to ask me, why do you keep? Because I have to. Because I have to, because I chose to, and that's the only reason I'm here. By the way, if I don't, all the others came with me won't, because they need for me and you to take those first steps so that they'll start walking too. Because if they don't walk, then what about the kids? What kids? We'll finish up the planetary destruction way before all that happens. So don't worry about it. It's a dire situation, but we came in fully equipped to handle it, each and every one of us. And I love the fact that you keep re-emphasizing it's all of us. That's what humans are. It's not, oh, I was this and that, and I'm a but. It's this is who and what we are. We're not just, there's a reason we can walk around and build things and fly up to the moon if we want. And the dogs over there, as lovely as they are, they can't do that. They don't have the tools. Uh, Birds and fish and bees, they can't do it. They don't want to. I don't know why we want to, but if there's anything resembling a god walking across the earth, I think we look more like devils to the rest of nature. But I know that's not even true, because when I came back to myself, every living blade of grass, every bee, everything with a pulse of life force energy at that moment was celebrating, saying, thank you, you're back. Welcome back. But it's the process.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We might have moments of activation, which plenty of people experience and are experiencing more of. There are people who are newly awakening right now, and there are some of
With
us
no
who,
guidance.
we're the OGs, we're the leading in evolution. We've moved through that stage of initiation and beyond it, and just like you said, we are the ones that are carving out the pathways for those behind us, where we are creating fluidity.
Mm.
And by the way, hey, thank us, okay? Because we have invested more than you could possibly fathom. Choosing to be here as advanced beings on the leading edge is not easy. People will idolize it, right? And they don't
Yeah.
understand how difficult it actually is. Something that I was going to be saying earlier, but I didn't fully get to a point of completion with, connects to this, which is that when I arrived here on Earth as a baby, I remember going, oh my God, why are all these people not in their bodies? Why are
Mm.
they not in their soul essence? And I was so freaked the fuck out. it developed into my life as what I would call a fear of zombies. I don't mean
Did you always have
zombies
a
like a
lot of
zombie movie. I mean the literal reality that we are
Mhm.
seeing. And so this is what I'm speaking about when it's like, don't idolize someone and make it so easy for them, because being a seer, any seer knows, is not easy. I literally see
It
the
sounds
essence
cooler
of
than it
people's
is
souls. Exactly.
to
And then you
see
see
people's
how far
souls.
they are away
Hmm.
from their soul, and you will grieve it. And remember, I said that I've been all around different galaxies and all stuff. You know what? I have homies here. I have people that I have loved, beings, souls that I have loved so deeply, beyond deeply, in other spaces, time points, dimensions, planetary systems, etc. And I have literally witnessed them here on Earth not remember themselves and not remember me. And I can remember it all. That is a hard pill to swallow. And
Indeed.
though so many of us came in here contracted and we had these grand ideas of what we were going to do, I will tell you that we have a lot of soldiers down. They are coming online now, but there have been so many who have unfortunately not made it. And I know this because I've been walking it, and I literally have seen myself multidimensionally looking through the veil that is spiritual warfare on earth. And I am just trucking it, just moving through this battlefield. And I'm literally watching all these people down. And I have seen myself on the leading edge being the only one there. There
Yeah.
are spaces where I have literally been existing and pushing creation to move forward, and I'm the only one there. And that is heart-wrenching. It is
It is.
heart-wrenching.
When I said I looked and I said, wow, this took me this long just to get back in my body, this long. And then I said, what hope is there for the rest of y'all? Because I know who I am. I know that I've been around for longer than numbers can express. And it took me this long in the physical to jump inside my body beyond just some kind of subtle little synchronistic thought that lined up with something over here. And all of creation is just celebrating. And I'm realizing, like, how did you let this get this bad? It was bad this time, that time, but wow. And I'm completely alone.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I write a song and speak upon this, I say, as I'm speaking to the powers that are soon to not be, I say, don't forget, I'm back. So it's too late. You lose. But I didn't come alone this time. And yet I'm walking around alone. And you're the only person that I've come across that I can have this open and clear discussion in English with. And I don't feel like you're trying to trick me. I don't feel like I'm crazy tricking myself. I feel like today was the day that all of it begins. The end was set. We all were there before when all that is was yet. And so we watched as nothing stopped the beginning where we all met.
And this is, again, the time. So that's something that I am repeating in my membership group,
the Evolutionary Collective,
that now is the time. Because again, so many of us have invested lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. And in so many of those lifetimes, we have not been able to come to a point of completion, not inside of our mission, not inside of our truest nature and selfhood embodied. We haven't been able to put into the world our most desired creations because they were all meant for a new paradigm in a new world. And that is literally happening now. Now, I am a grid worker. You know, I work with the telepathic grids. I work with Gaia's energetic body. I work with the ley lines, and I do this through multiple overlays and dimensions that exist, all the way to Gaia's innermost center, all the way up into vast, you know, other dimensional and even multi-galaxy systems. And I get to witness what is happening in those layers, in those ripple effects. So
just the ripples are so powerful. Just the
oh,
ripples.
massively powerful.
It's like,
So,
did you feel the earthquake? This is great.
yeah.
This much of the conversation is more than I was expecting, but
That's typically how I
it's what I
go.
was expecting
I'm
as
more
well.
than what is expected every single fucking time. Also, why my membership group
Was called
full, because I am full as fuck. The transmissions are full as fuck. I'm calling people into being their fully embodied self, etc., etc.,
And
etc. You're always getting more.
you spoke of the multiverse and multi-dimensional realities, and I always take it a step further too, because the company that I'm operating from with the Beneath the Surface podcast here is Omniversal Media. What's the Omniverse? That's where the whole multitude of multiverses are contained in something that's it's some comic book word, right? No, the Hawkeye thing didn't come from any of that. It came from having a hawk's eye view on souls like you, listener, being able to see them, not understand why they don't even have a clue. And I can't say nothing because they might crucify me or something. But I also don't care. So they're not going to crucify me till I'm ready. But I got to find the others. I found one because how sacred this sphere is. This is a vacation spot. This is the family reunion library of Gaia, and it's a shame that this would happen anywhere, but especially here. No, 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 no. I haven't been this animated in a while when talking with someone, just because I get bored. I get drained. This whole year I've been struggling, not against dark forces coming against me. In the past, it was up in my face, like hostile, dangerous situations that would find me, and I would move on, attacks, if you will. But this year, it's been almost as if they're scared to come too close, but they got to get rid of me. So I've been battling suicidal ideations all year. Go to sleep one night, wanting to kill myself, wake up in the morning, completely where I'm at now. Why? Because it's not me. It's something messing with my mind, and it doesn't matter because thank you, Dark Ones, for letting me know that now I'm really the only one that can get in my way.
Can I pause for just a moment?
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your experience, because I know that other people are too going to be experiencing this. And I wanted to even pause before when you brought up said the word crucifixion, like I'm basically like, I'm not going to come out and say who I am because who knows, I might be crucified. Well, that is a deep level, soul level, and typically past truly experienced thing that happened to so many of us that came here lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, here to bring truth, here to create a new paradigm. We were absolutely crucified. Absolutely. I've been crucified so many times, it's ridiculous. And this in 2021, I went on the first section of what I call my portal pilgrimage. The portal pilgrimage was something that I had been doing for many lifetimes. So I'm a high-level energetic architect. I'm a lead architect on Gaia's energetic body, which is her new earth body. And I had created and maintained these portals on earth in various different locations for many, many lifetimes. And what I was doing was I was encoding all of the sacred knowledge, ancient wisdom, previous lives that I had that Gaia said, I want those codes. I want that information. I want your experience. And I was placing them in these portals. And then when I would live a human incarnated life, I would pilgrimage, I would quest, and I would have to find these portals. Then I would pass through those portals in order to remember myself, and I would encode them with the current lifetime. And when I did that, I was remembering myself in a deeply amnesic world over and over and over again, to extreme. There were awakenings happening back then.
Building a contextual framework that leaves your physical mind unable to doubt anything because there's no reason
You're receiving it. And then you have to verify, like you just have to validate it at that point, right? So I was doing this lifetime after lifetime. And of course, it got me killed many times.
Yeah.
So when I was preparing, I was remembering this portal pilgrimage that I had taken for many lifetimes, and I knew that I was going to be going on this journey. I was literally reliving those experiences and remembering parts and pieces of them. And a part of my process was to go deeply inside of my own trauma responses relative to having been murdered so many times and in so many different ways and so many different lifetimes. And so this is not, I'm sharing this not because this is like my experience alone. I'm sharing this because, love, if you have been here for multiple lifetimes and you are here to create a new paradigm, the likelihood is that you were crucified too, and you are holding it in your soul body, and validate it. Don't suppress it. Don't invalidate it and be like, oh, that's just over here, that's just something that's kind of coming up, but it doesn't really matter. No, I'm actually encouraging you to drop into that, because when you drop into that, do you know what I found? I found a fearless place. I was like, oh, motherfucker's been killing me lifetime after lifetime. And then I saw the truth behind that, because guess what happens when they kill us lifetime after lifetime? We keep coming back. We keep evolving. We keep going to these higher dimensions, and then we come right back. So we receive more information, then we come back more powerful and stronger than ever. And so it was working, of course, in service to benevolent creation and not for the agendas that have been put in place over time. That immensifies our power. It immensifies our ability to remember, and also to bring to Gaia exactly what is her inheritance for allowing us, the planetary system, to coexist within and to evolve so immensely, right? She's a high level being.
The reason for the
calling
season.
it high level beings for their own evolutionary and transformational soulful processes. This is a powerful place to be. And so I was like, you know what? Like, as I'm processing all this fear, oh my God, I'm going to go on this thing. Am I going to get killed? How do I even have access to this high level of knowledge and experience? Like, this is nuts, right? Like, and I'm going, I'm a portal. I'm literally one of the most major portals here on Earth to exist. I'm going to actually say I am the most powerful portal here incarnated in human form that exists.
Again, when that comes to you, your mind can't figure out a way to convince you of what you know. It's not it's more of a realization than it is a something you learn or this and that. And I want to throw this in here for anyone else that's listening intently at this point. These murders in the past that are stuck in the trauma, that was intentionally done to keep you cemented in place. And in order in this lifetime to get to where you need to go in your development, you're going to have to quite literally relive it. I don't mean just think about it. I mean, relive it in the moment, process through it, come out of the other side. And there's a word, it's called abreactions. I wrote a poem. It says, these things which I have blocked out and ignored for peace of mind have really done nothing except help to keep me blind. So in this design, which is designed to keep me blind, encoded were the notes that I wrote and crafted to remind. A map to keep me safe. Yes, one which they can't erase, so that no matter the mistakes, I'd recall without haste. Swiftly tailored to my taste, I ensured that I'd awake, so the screen memories which imitate can never make me late. For I've embedded clues, yes, that which I now use to see through patterns in my youth, and with truth undo this ruse.
Fuck, I love that so much.
I like the fact that you put the context.
So much. For anyone who's listening, acknowledge the code, receive the deeper essence, receive the thing that's beneath the surface.
Yes, that's why we're here. That we're not doing this because I think you're cool, you this and that. We're doing it because this is the work. This is the work that has to be done in the rebuilding of the temple. And I'm saying temple instead of house, just to add some reverence to what we're doing here. It's sacred work. It's not. I know a lot of people think, oh, you're one of those people, you don't work, you just you beg for money off the internet, you give people some kind of self-help stuff. Yeah, not at all. Like, some people are out there and they're doing that, and I see them too. But when I saw you in the same way that I had to share that poem right then, because you built the context for me to say this one fits right here. And I want you to know that I hear you. And don't ever stop. I know
Oh,
that you
there's
won't.
no
I know that
stopping
you won't. I, I know that you won't. We're all just starting to really kind of get on the gas and have fun here. But thank you again. I'm going to be quiet and let you get to talking about the galactic history and what you've termed as the fall, because for me, stumbling across what was termed as galactic history and seeing it line up so intensely with my own inner picture and story, this random person that wrote stuff just really gave me the context that I needed to be able to calm down. Because you're out here alone most of the time, going through these initiations and these remembrances, and you don't know what to do with it.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm going to be quiet and let you go into that.
Mhm. So before I step into that space, I want to take a moment to appreciate you for acknowledging a few things. One, that my presence does something to those around me, right?
Yes,
Thank
indeed.
you for speaking to that. Um, and then also to acknowledging the not easiness of this deep level work. Like when you were talking about, oh, no, when you are actually going through this process, you're going to actually have to go through the process. You're going to feel it through your soul. You're going to feel it in your physical body. This is not easy. For me to prepare to get myself ready for the portal pilgrimage, massive work had to happen. And this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about being an advanced being. It is earned. It is not freely given.
That's
Yet, and
why.
you get to hold and own it if you are an advanced being. People are being taught out of not even using that kind of verbiage. And I'm
Of
like, no,
course,
you're going
you
to
have to use
own
that.
what is accurate. Where you have been devotional and committed and you're really doing that deep level work, we're going to acknowledge it. We're not going to allow it to go back into the suppressed realms and no one's going to talk about it. You're literally leading evolution. You get to hold that, you get to own that, and you get to be acknowledged with inside of that.
That's why every blade of grass was celebrating, joyous. Finally! Why? Because finally the rest of the humans have a light in this area where I'm at. And I became aware that I was fucking holding the thing. I knew it all along and just didn't know how to wrap my mind around, and then bam. But it sounds cool. It sounds cooler than it is, because the reality of it is shortly after that experience, I got ripped out of my home by the law for no reason. I'm not in jail right now, but they gave me 7 felonies, which all disappeared. Why did they do it? It didn't have anything to do with what they said that I did. It had a lot more to do with too many ripples going off, and some higher dimensional entities pulled some strings to make sure that, Agent Smith kept tabs on me, because that was a powerful period, especially if I would have been given the chance to get myself in some more trouble and start bringing this history lesson to each and every person around me. As a result, I had to, share it with the people in jail, and they're like, "Well, how are you?" Because it's on purpose. That's why I'm here. I didn't get arrested. They just helped me get to you. Your
Mm-hmm.
soul needed for me to come tell you, look inside.
Mm-hmm.
Hold that mirror up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So the last thing I want to say here is that when you are bringing immensity, when you are here for a higher purpose, and you are attempting to step into that purpose, like to really physicalize that purpose and embody your true nature, because those two things go hand in hand.
And not just talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Then likely you will face some kind of entity attempting to lessen your power or
Convince you.
to stop you from doing what you are meant to do, convince you that it's not possible, that you can bring the thing into the world that you are most meant to bring into the world. And that itself creates a soul level pain. The idea, it's like the idea, I work with evolutionary beings and creators of a new paradigm, and so many of them will experience this thing where they're like, oh my gosh, there's like a straight up entity trying to stop me from getting my work into the world. And I kind of want to bring it up to normalize it,
Yeah.
that this is something that does happen, but it is in no way more powerful than you,
Not at
period.
all. It's
That doesn't
crazy.
mean that I'm saying it's easy when you're dealing with this, but I am
Yeah,
saying that
definitely.
the ultimate truth is that it's not even near as powerful as you.
Let's take it back to the religious stuff here. You see people praising God, right? But as soon as the devil shows up in their field, you realize they really just believe in the devil. They don't believe in God. They don't sit with that power, or else they wouldn't worry about it and freak out and everything. You know, religious wars and whatever. Oh, the devil got a per. But like you just said, it's very real. You have to deal with it, but you're far beyond capable. We came in equipped with all of the tools
Mhm.
to get the job done immaculately,
Mhm.
because that's
Yeah.
how serious all of this is in the grand scheme of things, not just in my mind or your mind.
Mhm.
It's the reason
Or
the
it's
sun rises,
meaningful.
the rain falls, and the trees grow. Thank God. Then we can all breathe. Not just us, everything that breathes.
Mhm.
We're an integral part of this thing. And I'm just so excited to see it all unfold.
Mhm. And that's exactly where I was for 2021, because it was the first time ever in so many lifetimes that I was going to be able to unlock portals and everything that was inside of them. And
Opening the
this is
gates.
an example. This is an example that I want to give people, because I'm saying I get to see all these ripple effects and all these different layers. And this is one huge thing that I had desired to be able to do throughout so many lifetimes that I could never do, because ultimately the collective wasn't ready.
Exactly.
And trust, I had been ready beyond been ready. I had been ready before Atlantis fell. Like, it had been a long time of
When I
wanting to
say
open
ancient,
these portals up.
when we say ancient souls, we're not talking about old. That's just old. She said before that. I said in a song, I said, I was here before Eden. What does that mean? That means now is the time. That's why we're linking up and sharing this with others so they'll get on
Exactly.
board
In
too.
other lives, we would not have been able to even say who we were.
No.
And that's a process that a lot of people are also moving into as they start to remember themselves, like, and I'm doing this on the very, very tippy top of the leading edge of evolution, which is why I have to do it in a kind of like immensity, because ultimately I am Monea. I am mother of New Earth. I birthed the New Earth container. I'm the lead architect of that. Try saying that to the external world, that
It's
is
hard
going,
enough to say
you're
it to
not allowed to
yourself.
be in your power, and you're going, oh well, I'm actually this level of powerful. You're literally going to exist within a container that I created, because I'm a creator.
It's saying I'm so far beyond what you think that you see me shining here, and I'm just getting started, and I'm just really sending out a call to the others to let them know, hey, time to go to work. Lot to do, get it done nice and quick, and then we'll party like we planned.
Yeah,
Way back when, before the whatever happened, the fall. The part that
Yeah, we can totally get into the fall now. I wanted to end some of the threads, the loose threads. Like I said, I'm full, I'm integrated. You see in my transmissions, I bring things back to the full circle when I'm moving around in different kind of spirals and directions and topics. I like to make sure that there's this kind of beautiful conclusion with inside that.
We need the cohesion of that. Not a lot of people can do that. When they hear someone else doing it, they're like, oh wow, that's amazing. Then they tie all the pieces together in their mind after they review it again, and they say, oh, this is my I'm part of, and then it's like, yeah. So can we get beneath the surface? Can we hear about the fall, this and that? Because just to be honest, last memory I have was everything was a-okay, better than okay. That's why it's so shocking to be here to be like, wow, not here. Go do this on Mars or something. It's not here. It's offensive to me personally, and I don't have the mental framework to even be as mad as I am but I am, because I'm not this brain, I'm not this body, I'm not any of that. These are my tools.
Mhm. So I would say that you are your body, you are your mind, you are Ethan, that Ethan is a gift from Gaia to have physicalized your larger essence down into space, as in, literally the physical is dense. It means it brings the proximity points closer and closer together. So what she's doing is she's giving you an ultimate anchor to be all that you've ever been, because even when we've been experiencing beyond Gaia and in other dimensional spaces and forms and incarnations. So, like, for example, you've been angelic. When you were angelic, you were solely angelic. You weren't going, I'm Palladian angelic, Atlantean, inner earth being, an
Yeah.
Andromedan. You're not actually all simultaneously that you were. And the reason why is because, remember, I talked about when I was like, hey, let's do this experiment of separateness and sovereignty, and the collective's going, oh, fuck, no way. Well, one of the reasons why they were going, oh, fuck, no way, was valid, because separateness has created illusion. It's created amnesia. It's actually source disconnection, right? But it also creates ultimate integrative evolution, because what we are being called into is that rod, that physicalized rod that you have become, this anchor that Gaia has gifted you in this physical form, is actually, when it gets in divine right alignment, going to magnetize the entirety of your existence from your very point of origination, and you will be able to hold that in a body. Whoa, that has never happened before.
Nobody
That has never happened before.
nobody dares to speak of that in the way that you just did. But I love that you did, because that's exactly what I came to the conclusion of. And you're right. During the angelic time, holy that. Why? Because I wanted that full story. I wanted to read all of the chapters. And then when I was whatever over here, this and that, and on this sphere here, why is there so much life? Just so we can't even count how many different life forms. A library. They're being quite loud. We need to silence them. Others are trying to read. It's doing this work and interacting with people like you, souls like you. This is what keeps me out of those spaces of suicidality, because the whole time I'm thinking, who to kill myself? I don't have a reason. It's just an intrusive thought that I let run amok for too long, and ultimately it's just a distraction, because there's no way I put together all of this storyline for myself up until this point just to go blow my brains out tomorrow because I had a bad day. No, it's all a distraction. It's drama, this and that. But this interaction and what comes of those who listen to this in the future, that's the beauty of why I want to wake up and see the sunshine in the morning. Mm-hmm. Why I want to stand next to a tree, just to stand next to the tree. Mm-hmm. I want to see everything restored to balance. And I want all of our brothers and sisters here to say, holy shit, this is what it was. Yes, that's what it was like. That's why I was so outlandish the whole time, because you forgot. Mm-hmm. Amnesia fell a long ways, didn't we?
Oh, we fell big time. Give me 1 second though, because I started going on to two different tracks and two different roads here. Hold on.
This is why I did not put a time limit on this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way.
No.
So take your time.
Part of my job is to bring people back to life, to remind that their existence is immensely important, especially for those who are on the leading edge, because the actual impact that they make is immense. And I want to just take this moment to empathize and understand and just validate how difficult it is to be both a powerful being and also be experiencing these intrusive thoughts that are attempting to keep you from embodying that level of power in your actual essence and getting you into a point in a state of thrive, soul level satiation without interruption.
Yeah.
right? And that is where we're going. And I
Yeah.
also want to just communicate to you that I have been there. It's been a very long time. It was definitely when I was in my adolescence. I've had very extreme childhood circumstances, and it was not easy at all. And that went all the way with me into like my early to mid 20s. And there came a point where I was like, I'm done and I will never go back again.
Yeah. That was
And
my
I've
day today.
never since then experienced any form of depression or suicidal ideation, literally not even a lick. And I know that I never will in my future. And the reason why I'm speaking this is because I want you to know that that is ultimately possible, that this is not a thing that will linger with you throughout the entirety of your life. And so if you are willing to stay here, right, then the inheritance becomes heaven and you get to receive it. And so also let that be one of your compass post moving forward, that I didn't come here to just receive hell. I came here to receive heaven, and I'm going to stay here so that I get to receive my ultimate inheritance.
Thank you. Thank you very much, because I think you just further defined what I was trying to say near the start. And I said all day, the last like 3 days, it's been a message very loud and clear. This is time. This is where all of the pressure lets up and it doesn't come back. And you not only have a blast doing all of this, you see all of the puzzle pieces coming together, the threads weaving, the pattern. And you even get to the point of where sometimes you walk up to somebody and you tell them on purpose, this is going to happen, this, and this, and then this. And then you'll know with the specificity of it, all of that, that what I said to you was true, but it wasn't true because I said it to you. It was true because you said to me, your soul said to me, remind me of this in a way that I can't escape because I can't take this anymore. So have a nice day. We can tap into the ability to literally see what's going to happen, watch it happen, and then say, I told you so. But I only told you so that you listen to you. And after a conversation like this, I can't sit back and not hone those skills or practice or take my life seriously, because it's not just my life. Take life serious. So thank you. Think that you're the only person that said something beneficial in relation to what I've struggled with this year. So I greatly appreciate that. It's a very, very human thing of you to do. And it's nice to see that.
My honor. I wouldn't just let that linger. That's why I had to take that pause, because there was something that was meant to come through quite specifically for you. But of course, we know that this has ripple effects too, right? There's someone out there that is having very similar experience and they're getting to receive this too. And so, that's a part of us coming together and having different life experiences and compositions, and then having this conversation, because then the magnitude of it is amplified, by people who would resonate with me and my words and resonate with you and yours and my experience or your experience. It all kind of comes together and builds upon itself.
I love the way things just fit together so perfectly. And I think I'm of the opinion, it's not just an opinion, but I'm going to phrase it that way so people don't get lost. I'm of the opinion that that's the reality here. And it's just so hard to keep focused on it. It's not really all that miraculous or supernatural. It is, but that's extra natural in what is actually going on. That's why the redwood trees are so huge and large, and they don't produce Wi-Fi, but just think about the immensity of that, just one tree. Think about the fact that one apple can produce enough seeds to plant an entire orchard. You'd never be able to eat all the apples off of just one tree. That's the magical planet that we live on. And it's not magic, it's life, chasing after life. That's why we can have these interactions randomly with people that we've never really had a full conversation with before. Because I know that you know that I know that you know that we know that they know time's up.
So before I really begin in this multidimensional history lesson, I just want to kind of clarify where this information is coming from. It is coming from me. It is coming from my memories. It is coming from my channel. It's coming from my embodiment and my experience of moving through this process. And so I share it to you through a true place of direct experience, remembrance, and also integrative process and embodiment.
Direct experience.
Yes, direct experience.
That's where it's
And
at.
so I was at one period of time, I was in Gaia's firmament. So her firmament is like her energetic body. This was her clear, clean, healthy, high harmonic, energetic body. And at that time, I was a dragon, and there were also plenty of other etheric beings that
Did
were
she say dragon? Says
harmonic. I was dragon. Totally a dragon, a pearlescent white dragon who breathes pure harmonizing fire.
So I'm just gonna throw this out here and not interrupt you too much, but I find that hilariously synchronistic because I have the dragon energies following me around my entire life.
Some of the most powerful beings in all of creation are dragons.
Dragons aren't real. Yeah, tell that to anyways.
Tell that to a dragon.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, there were there were high harmonic beings that were there. There were, especially like unicorns, angelic beings. I had a friend that in this lifetime, I would see her physicalized form, but I would also see her form when we were in the firmament, and she was just like a bunch of puffy like pastel clouds, and that was just her. And so, yeah, we were holding extremely high harmonics, and we were tending to get Gaia's energetic body. We were in service and devotion to her.
Working in the garden.
Yes. And then there was an energetic hit.
Mm-hmm.
So that energetic hit was what created the broken sacred geometry, that created fragmentation, that created a de-evolving portal that literally, if you imagine a spinning tornado going in basically an opposite direction of creation, was then pulling us down as high harmonic and higher dimensional beings into lower and lower frequencies and densities. Okay, what happens when a higher octave being is pulled into lower density spaces is fragmentation. This is also why your guides, they will not come down to you. You have to find ways to connect with them, because if they were to come down to these lower dimensional spaces with you, it would actually hurt their soul body, their energetic body. It could actually create fragmentation within their system. Of course, that would not be in service to them, neither you. So instead, they call you in to rise to meet them. So I'm kind of connecting this with some energetic, information, so it can be understood what this really was. The greatest soul fragmentation that I have personally experienced and remember that I am an OG within creation was when my dragon fell from the firmament and hit Gaia's physical surface, that part of her body. But so many of this, and this is connected to the actual truth of the fallen angels, this is why they fell. It was because of an energetic atomic bomb, essentially, that hit Gaia's body and then pulled them down into these lower dimensional frequencies. Many of us, we went beyond her surface. We actually went into inner earth realms, and the most advanced beings were allotted the highest, most reverent space, which was in her innermost center. I went there because I have actually had been working a blueprint that I co-constructed with Gaia from the time when I was a planetary system, looked over at her, said, "Girl, you looking fine. And you also have this whole thing that's to come, and I'm going to help you with that." So even though I was prepared, I kind of knew that there was going to be a fall, and I had experienced prior falls, such as like the fall of Lyra. So why I'm bringing this into place as well is because we need to understand their overlays on overlays on overlays. Creation itself is a microcosm to a macrocosm to a microcosm. It's all a ripple effect of patterns. And so this was not the first fall that neither I had ever experienced, nor that creation itself had ever experienced, but it was the first fall that Gaia herself had experienced. And so these beings, including myself, we fell to earth, and the fragmentation from this experience was immense. Immense. Yes, this is what created the amnesia.
I have a question here. Just for anyone that's listening, that may, I imagine there's somebody that's listening, they don't really understand why they're so interested. But for them, could we add maybe a little bit of a context of a number, like a time frame of how far back we're looking at?
I actually can't give that.
Any kind of an estimate or ballpark figure.
Because time is so weird through the multiple dimensions. It's like, you know, it'd be like, how would I be able to answer the question of when did I make this decision to be a sovereign being within creation? I'd be like, fuck, I don't know. Like, time is weird. You know, I don't know. It really is. If I were to condense it down into another dimension where time exists, what that would be, it looks different in different dimensions. Like, you know,
the way it spirals in and back in on itself makes it completely irrelevant. But for the sake of conversation here, let's imagine somewhere in the neighborhood of 300,000. That's better than 300 or 3,000, like all of the fantasy stories that I read are always talking about in their allegories. We're talking about way long time ago in a galaxy far, far across the river, right here where we're at again. And my website's Reincarnated to Resist. Resist what? Doesn't matter. What are we doing? Passing the mic back to you. The physicality of this story is important, by the way. This isn't just some metaphor.
No, this is an
or symbolic. It's an actual exactly. Physical occurrence of
yes. So now we need to look at the firmament to understand evolutionarily why this is happening ultimately, as in service to benevolent creation. Because I say malevolence is always in service to benevolence because creation itself is benevolent. So there's a higher reason or purpose that all this is happening, right? So the firmament itself was an arena where etheric beings were coexisting in high harmonics. Okay,
coexisting.
The etheric nature. This is her etheric body. Okay, the ether itself is feminine. I know no one who is talking about this. So etheric is feminine, where astral is masculine. So we're talking about something that's more like high harmonics, as in sound waves. Okay, we can understand sound waves here being humans, like through things like music, but there's also like an energetic essence that is sound itself, and that's what so many of those beings were working with. Well, when the fall happened, and by the way, the fall is literally what created the patriarchal matrix. Okay, so there was sacred geometry. That's what you have to have, as in it's the foundations of architecture that are in alignment with creation itself. That's what got hit and then fragmented and then broke. Okay, so I kind of describe this, the fall, to give people visuals. Imagine a back spinning tornado that sucks beings in. It creates fragmentation and a shattering glass effect. And then imagine that there's a spider web, because the webbing itself is how creation itself threads and creates. So that webbing that also had the sacred geometry in it is what then broke. So imagine that webbing then turning to a black tar. That black tar moving into that back spinning tornado, right, is actually what we have been walking around and creating through, which is the patriarchal matrix. It is a coding of patterns in creation that are broken and made for inversion. This is also why I say it's literally a de-evolving portal. So the shattered mirror effect is extremely important. This is something I teach people to help them understand, especially when they are coming online themselves. What has been going on in the world around them that tells them you don't exist, that projects onto them, that says you're not allowed to be who you are. That's not who you are. Constantly. Right. And so what that is literally the shattered mirror effect. Instead of you getting your true soul's reflection, because it is the inversion, it is the fall, it's the threading from the fall, it's a de-evolving portal, it's the amnesia, etc., what it does is it then, there are people who are replica cells that are literally replicating the threads of the patriarchal matrix. Then they are looking at you as a light being who is coming online. And instead of reflecting to you your true nature, they are a mirror for the patriarchal matrix. They are a mirror for the inversion. They are a mirror for the fall.
It's the matrix overlay.
To project on you. They are going to tell you that you are literally the thing that you are not, that you oftentimes are the opposite of. That's what's going to happen. And it's going to happen constantly all around you. Why? Because you, babe, are the dissolve of the fall. And the fall wants you not to come online to yourself and to have all of this stuff in your field that creates debris, that creates soul trauma, because soul trauma itself is fragmentation, and fragmentation is a part of the fall. The fall is fed by fragmentation.
Like a black hole.
Your fragmentation.
Like a black hole.
Which actually exists. There has to be fragmentation.
It actually exists, black holes, and it sounds like what you're describing here. And again, the physicality of this story and the symbology of it all is very important, listeners. I'm very familiar with what you're speaking of here. Waded through it. The overlay, as soon as you poke a hole through that net, it starts trying to cover it back up. And it's very easy, especially if you're going to work and trying to do whatever it is we do here in America, day in, day out. It's very easy to get distracted and find yourself 6 months down the line before you open your eyes again. So, what am I doing? It took me a year to get back into actually start this podcast. But the time is now. I'm loving this. Please continue.
So when we're talking about the patriarchal matrix, of course, there is an imbalance between the masculine and the feminine. The masculine and feminine are foundational energetics within inside all of creation. Remember, I said this sacred geometry was broken. Okay, well, that's a part of that. It's literally taking creation and breaking it and inverting it and fragmenting it. So, of course, there's going to be an imbalance between the masculine and the feminine. Okay, ether is feminine. Gaia desired more ether at her center. She is a very physicalized being, and at her, I call it her iron core. It's a very dense, but I'm not saying dense as in density. I'm talking about dense as in mastery, right? She brings physicalized mastery, but she needed ether at her center. She needed ether itself creates templates. So if you create an etheric template, which I teach people how to do within around their energetic body through master level energetic architecture work that I offer my clients, and I teach them the foundations of this, I help you build a container for your consciousness, which is like creating a template to hold your soul's essence inside of that. She needed the higher harmonics of her external container that was the healthy high harmonic firmament, and that essence of ether, which is also needing a more feminine energy at her densified, which is masculine, center. She is creating divine union within at a deeper, more immense level than any part of creation has ever seen happen before. So this is again why there is a higher divine aligned plan ultimately in the making. But what we have experienced in between all of this has been literally soul devastation, soul level fragmentation.
The broken mirror.
Yeah, the broken mirror. And so when I kept for years, I was being called to a particular area. It was in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and I would get all these visions of this area in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is where I'm going to create heaven on earth. This is where I'm supposed to lay down my anchor as an anchor of new earth. And I got there. And what actually was happening, which by the way, just to give time context in my journey, the portal pilgrimage started. I did that work. And then I went to Texas. And Texas was my last point before I ended up going back. I got the call. You can go to the Blue Ridge Mountains now. You can go there. And I'm thinking, yay, I did the portal pilgrimage. I'm done with the portal pilgrimage. I can anchor. This is where I'm going to create heaven on earth. And I was, very wrong about some of that. And the reason why is because the portal pilgrimage is still continuing on. I'm on the second part of the portal pilgrimage now currently. There's more to the work. Sometimes we think it's done or we want it to be closer than it is. This is understandable. And so I had been called to this area. And when I arrived, really what it was about was retrieving my dragon. My dragon, and I knew this, had landed in the Blue Ridge Mountains when I fell from the firmament. And I'm a grid worker. And so I work with the ley lines of Gaia, her energetic body. And before I even started Portal Pilgrimage 1, a very specific ley line came online in my body, and I could feel I started feeling her map inside of my body, but in particular, this one ley line. So when I arrived in the Blue Ridge Mountains, that ley line inflamed so badly and inside of my body that I could not walk for 3 days. It was where I fell. It was where my soul body fragmented to the highest degree it ever had within all of my soul's existence.
And you had to walk through it in the physical.
Yes. And simultaneously, I'm a grid worker, so I'm also healing Gaia's ley lines. So sometimes ley lines, they are connected to dragons. They're called dragon lays, dragon lines. And it's because dragons and angels, for example, they work with things like lines, timelines. Angels do a lot of timeline work. They're working with the gridded system relative to higher harmonics. So this is a part of Gaia utilizing dragons that fell to Earth to then hold the map at her surface. So basically also what was happening is like where we were when we were in the firmament is going to also be a map that's going to be at her surface based on where we then fell onto her surface.
That's how I view the stars in astrology. It's a map. If you know how to read it, it's very clear.
Mm-hmm.
It is so simple. This is all so simple. It fits together nicely. But that amnesia, though.
So I arrived to Asheville. I'm having really high hopes for heaven on earth here.
Basically, you're on a mission to retemplate this inverted grid.
Yes. And I've been doing that work on so many levels for a very, very, very long time. So, as I'm walking around my everyday reality, I'm doing things like finding pockets within Gaia's energetic body where there's been fragmentation, and I'm actually fixing it and putting it back into place. That's stuff that I was doing even before Portal Pilgrimage 1, but now I don't have to do those things so much anymore because the clean grids have arrived. This is why the time is now. But I'm taking us through, of course, this history and to how we're even arriving at this time where the grids are actually healed and whole and more advanced than ever before
That's
by
why
us
it's
merging
now.
various dimensional layers from her ether to her innermost center.
That's why the
Woo!
time is now.
Yes. So when I arrived to Asheville with high hopes, or the Blue Ridge Mountains, I'll say, because that's really
Man,
more accurate. What actually ended up happening is I was passing through my crucifixion. So remember that was already starting to activate and happen even before I got on the first section of the portal pilgrimage, because I was remembering all of these various crucifixions that I had experienced. And portal pilgrimage 1 was not easy. I was experiencing extreme spiritual warfare. Monea is a badass. She's a warrior being, and I know a lot of beings around the Galactic. So, of course, I could call in supports, but I was facing some serious warfare. Like, I'm talking, I literally, while driving, am also seeing beyond the veil, but the two spaces are merged together so much that they're one and the same. Saw a train on fire. Like, I was literally on the battlefield seeing things being shot at me, and I'm like also being a human driving a car. Like, these things are all
you're
happening
shifting back and
simultaneously.
shifting and slipping back and forth in between dimensions, and it doesn't stop. And yeah,
No, just where it's all kind of happening simultaneously together. Yeah.
2020, right before my music uh launched. This music I put together about 3 months. It went on for about 3 months. Same type of slippage, and we'll just call it that. And then out of the other side, it all settled down. Now it's this little nagging overlay, but it's still there. But I know some people that shine this light that's keeping that darkness at bay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Rebuilding the
I
template.
was I speak about in Portal Pilgrimage 1 how it was warriorship. I was getting prepared as a warrior. I had been a warrior many different incarnations. That was some of the multidimensional from this lifetime and other dimensional spaces, multidimensional integration I was doing to prepare for Portal Pilgrimage 1. And I didn't know, how extreme that warfare was necessarily going to be, but this was really us as a collective on the battlefield of, and other people speak about it in these terms as like World War III. It's really, is it 3, 4? I don't know. Anyways, you get what I'm saying, right?
I do. It was intense.
Spiritual warfare, right? It's spiritual warfare. It's not in the same way that people are thinking about it. But it's absolutely active and happening. And so there was a ton of that happening within 2021 and also moving into 2022. And so it's, we also hear plenty of people, channels and otherwise, say we won, quote unquote, the war. Well, this is true. This is true. And I actually see it now. For example, when I'm talking about the grids and all of this that I see happening, it's becoming very clear. Like, for example, there are peace treaties that have been arranged all over this planet and with different councils. And those peace treaties are now being firmly enacted. And for example, entities are having to leave this earth plane because of those peace treaties. There are shifts that are taking place because we actually won the war. It's not just a statement that's being said. I can see how it's accurate, and I'm explaining exactly an example, right, of how that is taking place. So I was still moving through the battlefield and the warfare, and I'm in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and I am seeing at this time, whoa, look at the DNA. Ooh, I started creating with the new DNA. I started weaving the new DNA, doing all of this stuff. I'm, working with the grids, the telepathic grids, and I'm going, ooh, I'm going to be, creating all the new DNA, this multidimensional DNA. It's finally coming through, and we can actually utilize it. Like, ooh, like the thread's actually here. We can actually move it, right? I'm talking about this, and then boom, I get COVID. Well, guess what? COVID's a bioweapon. It's a bioweapon to stop evolution. But of course, all it did was actually propel it forward, because this is what happens. This is what's happening now. And it is a way to keep the broken DNA strands separate. So if we look at like the ladder effect, what the fall did was it literally cut those ladders. That's what masculine and feminine imbalance looks like. When you look at it as a DNA strand, you're going to see lines that are disconnected, that they're not touching. They're not in sacred union. They're not in a sacred figure eight. And so the, COVID itself was a bioweapon in order to try to keep that in place. I am an ultimate alchemist. And so I am called to extreme depths. My childhood was extreme. My initiation processes are extreme. And COVID was a massive initiation process for me. I literally almost physically died for the first time in my life. I was facing, again, extreme spiritual warfare. And so COVID really hit me deep, because I was doing the opposite thing to its function, to what it was meant to do. And the thing about that is then I had to go all the way to the depth of that bioweapon and what it was doing. And then I had to rearrange it and utilize it in order to restrand the higher evolutionary alchemized DNA. So I'm doing this all within inside of my body, and simultaneously I'm moving through masculine initiation, a masculine initiation process that really started with warriorship. I was integrating parts of myself and several parts that were also like male and incarnated life, like a Viking, life that I had, et cetera, et cetera. At that time, I didn't know, I've actually started going through masculine initiation. I have been doing feminine initiation. I've been teaching feminine initiation. I am truly, truly a divine feminine embodiment. Truly, people throw around these words and it's irreverent as fuck.
They
and also
throw
false.
them around.
Right. That's part of the inversion, is for people who are not the thing to call themselves the thing, to actually confuse people so they can't see the real thing. So this is all part of the crucifixion.
When they become the thing, they can't believe that they're the thing, because they already saw those people who aren't the thing say they were, and nobody knows what any, but when
exactly.
When you know, and thank you again for being you.
Thank you for the appreciation. So I'm going to put that puzzle piece in here because we're speaking about it. This is too what I was facing within that area, in the Asheville area, because of course people who are familiar with Asheville would consider it like a spiritualized community, right?
And you went there and got your dragon back.
Exactly. And that's what I was there for. I went there thinking, this will be amazing. I'm going to create community. I'm going to finally have some people who can meet me. They can understand my language. And I knew that I was stepping into an area that was, of course, going to have faux spirituality and false consciousness. There was no doubt about that. But I went there with the intention of having community opportunities. That way I could potentially make connections with people who were like the pocket people. They were on the outskirts, but they were like what I call the true ones. I did not find that in that area. That's not where my true community was ultimately meant to be, which I was really, really desiring, right? I was desiring that.
It's really sad to hear that, because it does not surprise me.
No,
that makes me feel really sad, but at the same time, you had to go get your dragon back, and
there's a reason for it. So when we're talking about this, like I had mentioned, faux spirituality and false consciousness is literally a part of the inversion. It is here to stop heaven on earth. Jesus himself was crucified by beings that were replicating the inversion. And so I was facing a lot of that within that community, because when you are a true one, when you are genuinely embodying the thing, you are going to trigger, your very existence is going to trigger the fuck out of those who are not the real thing. You can just be there and you're just triggering.
You'll see them look at you and you'll feel it. And if you don't mosey on along, then you're gonna have to either shut them down or suffer whatever you get caught off guard with.
So
Because
I was enduring a lot of spiritual warfare in that way as well. This is also why I
not to
prefer.
mention the bioweapon.
Yeah, right. This is also why I prefer to not be in spiritualized communities and even
Yeah.
people who aren't even going into that kind of arena, because people who are in that arena, they start learning things like energetics, and then they can use black and dark magic. And now you're having to fight against these things that are in the field. Whereas if someone's just not aware of that, you're going to have at least less of that. You might be walking around in a field where people aren't necessarily conscious. They might not be able to hear what you're saying. But you're not going to have the shattered mirror effect in your fucking face at immensity, because this thing's going, I am you. I am the thing.
Like a bunch of
I'm the
children,
thing, right? In your face and going, you're not the thing. And it's like, what the fuck is
like a
going
bunch of
on here?
children, a bunch of children throwing rocks at you.
Constantly.
Why?
So
Because they're
now
kids.
imagine that also is impacting the grids, because the
Mm-hmm.
grids themselves are going to replicate themselves down here, including at human level. So not only am I dealing with it from actual human beings that are then throwing all this stuff at me constantly in the field, but I'm also having to tend to the grids in the field that I work with all the time, including the telepathic grids and the healing of this ley line that's also inflamed in my body and is directly connected to the fall and the patriarchal matrix. I had discovered an energetic line that was running down the right side of my body. And so many of us have this, especially if you are female bodied. Please listen to this and look at your energetic body. There will be an energetic line that will move up from your leg, up your thigh, around and into your womb, if you're a female body being, into your solar plexus, up through your hips, up past your heart, and it will strangle your neck, and it will blind your eyes, and it will hang you. Does that not sound like crucifixion?
It sounds like someone's a real warrior here, and
Yes.
because you're handling all this stuff at once alone,
Yes.
and this was supposed to be the promised land,
Yes.
but it turned out to be just a mirage. But yet here you are, and I've been through my own shit, and I can't wait till we continue to interact with the others, and they're like, "Oh, I'm back online." I'm like, "Yeah, cool, let's all
Receive
go."
the real and true thing. Exactly. And this is what we've been experiencing as souls coming here. We've been like, oh, we get really excited because we're so devotional, and we actually are holding the higher vision for the new paradigm to be created.
Like an
And so
anchor.
we would come here, exactly. We would come here and we would hold these higher things, just like I'm experiencing with what I thought the Blue Ridge Mountains were going to be for me. And that's not what it was. So what is happening is time and space and dimensional realities, and these lifetimes I had here are all intersecting and spiraling back around to the origination of the fall that I experienced, falling from the firmament and hitting these mountains as a dragon. So I'm simultaneously being with various different areas. And let's also remember, I arrived and then I had been there for about a month. And that's when I was working with the new strands of DNA. And then boom, COVID. COVID hit me really bad. I couldn't really stand. I'm in a place where I don't have resources. I was having all kinds of difficulties, but like physically, but I also knew I'm not going to die. So I knew, I'm like, you can't kill me. Like,
I'm not done yet.
you can't, right?
It's done
So,
when I say it's done, and the name of the
right.
game is
So,
I win. So, but man, when you're stuck in it, it's like
I was deeply stuck in it. And then when people experience COVID, it will especially attack your purpose. Hard. You are not allowed to do this. You can't do this. It's a waste of time. It's trying to literally convince you back into the patriarchal matrix. So I am laying in bed, not even able to take a shower because I can't stand. And this thing is attacking my soul. And remember, I teach people into their souls. I teach people how to anchor. I teach people energetic skill sets. I teach them how to deal with mental patterns and programs, how to perspective shift. I have a ton of skills in order to handle something like this. But it was literally taking over my cells. And I was speaking to a friend at the time, and I said, this shit is gnarly because I hold it the fuck down who I am and what I'm here for, and just like my true self embodiment. And this thing is taking over 80% of me right now, but it can't ever take all of me. And I would hold so firmly in whatever percentage I have. It's like, this is what it is, right? So that lasted essentially 2 months. I got double pneumonia. I got a blood clot. Guess where? My left lung, exactly
all of this
where that energetic line
all
moved
of this
through my lung.
All of this was, because I see bits and pieces from posts. All of this was happening at the same time. It's all the same. And every time I hear anybody talk about COVID, I just have to take this second to remind them that just before all that happened, Epstein didn't kill himself. And then as a result, they shut the entire planet down to make sure people stopped talking about it. And they used it in this way towards certain individuals. Powerful stuff that didn't work.
And this is the thing, is there's also people that were yes, you do. There were also people in my environment that are literally trying to shame me because I'm having a hard time with COVID. Like
you got sick, so that means God doesn't love you.
Bodies must be really ill. I'm such a wounded being. And like also questions like, did you take the vaccine? It's like, no, I remember Atlantis. Like, no, I'm not gonna take the fucking vaccine.
As if the bioweapon wasn't bad enough, they had to go say, we're going to pump this one into your bloodstream because we're not sure that we got you. We're not sure where all of y'all are, but we want to get you. Yeah, that's how scared they are, I guess.
So I'm also simultaneously
dragon.
Yeah, ultimately. So as I was moving through this process, right, I was going through masculine initiation. I was healing this line out, this energetic kind of strangling line that also overlaid the ley line inside of my body. And I am doing masculine bloodline healing work through my entire ancestry. I've done that with my mom. My mom's side, I've zeroed that out. All with feminine embodiment. Now I'm here doing it with the masculine. And when I say that I'm doing these things, because people will hear it at the level that they can receive it, go beyond that, because I am doing these things at levels that are unfathomable. Like, truly. So I am also dealing with, that and my relationship with my father, and I'm stepping into space with him in a very powerful way, communicating that there's going to need to be ownership if he's going to be a part of my life. So it's literally the feminine, the high level feminine embodiment speaking to the wounded masculine and telling him that he needs to show the fuck up and there's no other option. Literally. Or you don't get connection with the feminine, you don't get the feminine provision. There are certain things that are needing to be righted here that were deeply wrong. And so, I invite men into their true nature. I invite men into honor. I invite men to deal with the patterns and the programs and dynamics that they have inherited as a result of the patriarchal matrix. Like, I call them into truth, the truth of their soul. And I do it because I love them, because I'm here to liberate them. Men will take it sometimes, depending on where they're coming from an ego-based place, and then think that I'm attacking them. And that's not actually truth. I'm loving them, but they haven't felt that kind of love just yet. That is the feminine, the fierce feminine, the woman of fire. The woman of fire is a woman who has integrated her masculine, because base code of fire is masculine. This is also the warrior integrating with the feminine. This is the work that I do. This is also why you'll see on my Facebook and my post and my content, I'm speaking about masculine and feminine at an extremely high level, very high level. Why? Because I'm doing the work at that level. That's why I'm here to repair it all the way, completely. That is what I'm here for. So I'm having to go through this masculine initiation that I'm speaking of. That is extremely challenging.
All at the same time.
Yes, all at the same time. So I finally got good enough where I could go venture out, and I hadn't gotten that much time in that area
Can't even
in
go in
community
nature.
because I've been in bed for 2 months, you know. And
Keep her away from the trees.
and what happens is, I'm going to back up just to put this little note in here. The very first person that I met in the area that actually helped me kind of move in a way, I was like, man, I know this person. I know this person. I know this person, but I didn't know why I knew that person until I knew why I knew that person. And the reason that I knew them is because they had literally crucified me in that physical locality in a prior lifetime.
It
So
just
that's
keeps
the
getting
first
more
person
intense.
I'm meeting arriving at the area before I'm even understanding that the true nature of my dragon falling here is not like necessarily a blessing. I mean, it is and it isn't, right? It's also about this deep level soul fragmentation. And then I'm walking through this process of crucifixion. So when I go to an event after I kind of become well, it was a Valentine's Day event. And I went with a group of women. One of the women I had known, I met her at someone else's birthday prior, that she was not the type of woman who was going to be able to share in time and space with me because I'm an immensely powerful woman. And any women who are running these kind of old paradigm patterns, they will be deeply in their insecurity. They'll want my approval, and then they'll also try to project or harm me. And so I just don't engage with women that operate at that level. And I knew that that was her makeup. I can read people fast. I mean, I can read people instantaneously. And I validate it because it is accurate. I'm a deep seer. There is accuracy there. We can validate what is in the unseen. And so I went to this Valentine's Day event, and long story short, what happened was this woman attempted to basically get services from me, like want me to go into all her wounded areas. I held my boundaries and was like, you know, I'm open to offering you services through my paid services. And I stopped the conversation. What then that became of me just holding clear boundaries and also holding my power and also not speaking disrespectfully at all, just speaking simply through clarity, is that the other women in the group that had come had overheard me, and they go to the damsel in distress. They go to her rescue. They start whispering in front of me. Now what happens is the damsel in distress is then calling in the group to then witch hunt me. So now
It
I am
always turns into a witch hunt.
experiencing
It's always a
being
witch hunt.
witch hunted. Witch hunting
I was
is
going to say
is
that
absolutely
earlier.
related to the crucifixion.
Mm-hmm.
It is, I have literally been burned at the stake. I have been hung as a witch.
Maybe Jesus was actually female and it was a witch hunt then. I don't know. I
Oh,
just
he was
know
very much so
I
male.
I just
I'm really into him.
I
You
just
can
know
tell by my voice.
I know that the part that got me was you spoke with this man who did this in the past and you remembered it and you still did the work. And I see all of these women, some I'm very grateful that they're out there doing the work, the same type of work, not the same type, but in the same field. And then there's you, and I look around and I say, well, maybe I was supposed to be born a woman because where are all the men doing this? And what I know from warfare is that if when you invade a place, you take out all of the alpha males, and then hope that the women aren't gonna like Amazon you, like what's the Wonder Woman thing and all of that. But where are they at?
Yes.
Why aren't they stepping in? And the ones that do step up, do they go as deep beneath the surface as you are? Because I would like to meet them and go there with them, but how do I find them? And it doesn't matter. I think it's important for any men listening to this to see you told the story of what you had to go through all at once after you got to where you were led to go, only to find, oh, I needed to pick this up, and now I'm going to be attacked from every angle.
Mm.
And where'd that leave you?
Right. So we have to remember I'm a portal. So I am a true divine feminine embodiment. I am here without, I'll say without I'm here without a masculine counterpart currently in the physical. And before I started Portal Pilgrimage 1, when my guides kept going, Ashtyn, the portal's unprotected. And I was like, what portal? And then I realized I'm the portal and I'm the unprotected portal. There is no masculine. The masculine is missing. I was terrified. I even asked a male friend if he would come with me. He had come with me on previous portal pilgrimages and he did not. The masculine was not showing up for me. The feminine and being a true divine feminine embodiment, what that also means is that you literally feel for the entire feminine collective. I move energy through my body. That is her collective ache through time, space, and multiple dimensions relative to fragmentation with her counterpart, that is the missing masculine. I have literally full on scream cried in river water, moving that energy for the collective and calling the masculine in. The missing masculine is needed and necessary for New Earth. It literally cannot come to be without him.
And
I
that's
remind
why,
the
I wanted to
masculine
point
of
it
his
out.
importance.
That's why I
And I
wanted to point
thank
it
you for
out,
sticking to it too.
because God knows we need all of you females doing what we can't do, but all I see is how bad you all need us to be us. Because
Yes.
I always take it into lions, the lionesses with the hyenas, this and that. It'll be a bloody, terrible thing that it doesn't have to be if the male lion just roars. They run away in nature. Why? Because they know that they don't need to learn that lesson. And everybody's cool. But I know they're not all dead. They're just quiet for some reason. Now I'm here to say it's time. Come out of your hiding, because I keep running across people like this, usually in a book I read. And it's pulling me out to the forefront. And I'll go alone if I got to, but I know I won't be. So any men listening to this, it's my father used to say something, and it was funny. He said it in a comical way, but I think about it a little differently. But on the surface, it might sound a little rude. But he said, I come from a time back when men were men and women knew it. And I interpret that as women knew they didn't have to worry about men not being men. And they were safe to be women. That's how I interpret that. I just want men to be men again, so that I don't have to walk through and tippy toe with all of these spiritual community type people. You're too mean, or too. I'm here for the sun, rain, tree. I'm part of that miracle going on. So I'm not going to drop to your level here. Man, it'd be so nice if there were more people, because people know this stuff. We're not shocking them by saying this. They're shocked that we're saying it, but not that they're hearing it. And I'm just saying, man, woman, child, whatever, stop belittling yourself, because it's for no reason. That it serves no purpose. It doesn't help anything, especially not you.
Well, so here, this is where the threading that I talk about in the tar and the webbing relative to the fall, it affects the feminine, and in the ways that it affects the feminine, and it affects the masculine in ways that it affects the masculine. This is also why my client base is both men and women, because I can speak to the process on each side, and I can support just souls in whatever gender or form that they're in, moving through that process with inside of themselves to come back to their divine right nature and positioning. So the patriarchal matrix, what it does is it feeds off the life force of men. It takes their purpose and it redirects them with confusion. So it takes their life force and then it feeds it and fuels the patriarchal matrix. So now what is man not doing? He's not leading. He's no longer leading his own life. He is actually being led by the patriarchal matrix, but he is meant to self-lead. He is meant to have his self-hood. And so when his energy is being redirected to then be in service of a patriarchal matrix, it takes him out of his divine right throne and positioning. And therefore, he is not then in his right state of being to be aligned to how, for example, a divine masculine being would actually be interacting with life itself and also with the feminine element. And so there is a need for masculine provision for the feminine so she can do what she has been doing. What she has been doing is she has been, just like we see in like the more human level, is embodying both male and female. She is doing the job,
holding up
doing
your
the home
part,
stuff.
fellas.
She's doing all of the arenas simultaneously. Now, what that looks like when it's in a higher elevated form and not a pattern wounded form that's actually in alignment with a patriarchal matrix is that you start doing your higher level integrative work and you start inviting in the divine masculine element into yourself, which is what I do. Because if there's not going to be a physicalized man standing next to me, then what am I going to do? I need those supports. I need them literally in order to do and be what I am, most especially as a main portal for new earth and a truly divine feminine embodiment. I have to have the missing masculine element called in. And so what do? Well, I call it in from the sun. The sun fuels my business. It literally pays my bills. Literally. I hold trees so that I get energetic work that the masculine would do for me. I lay on river rocks so that they help ground me and they nuzzle my body and they share love with me and they share that ancient wisdom embodied solidity. I learn the masculine from the unseen because he is missing in physicalized form. And then I teach men how to embody that for themselves, because that's also what I'm going to do to bring that through into physicalized form in service to a new earth that requires his commitment, devotion, engagement, etc. Requires.
I love the way that at this point, anyone that was listening at the start of you using terms like masculine and feminine, there's no confusion that, oh, you're one of those that just hate men, or you're one of those that just really loves women. And there's no confusion between those two, because it's few and far between people that can hold that balance and get to the point of why they're even talking about it without getting lost in some spiral. And it's refreshing for me to see that, because then I don't get triggered and I get to listen and say, yeah, that's what I would say to all those men if they weren't over there drinking beer, watching a football game instead of living. And, do whatever, but just don't do that all the time, because I just spent most of this year trying to kill myself because I was not living and walking my purpose, because I got knocked down and all of the stuff I was building collapsed, and I put in so much effort, and I just was like, well, nobody really gives a shit anyways. What if I had a brother that was like, nah, I'm not going to let you stay on the ground?
Exactly.
Men need men. Women need men. And men need for y'all to continue to do what you're doing till we get back up.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to listen here and maybe quiet for a little while.
No, I love where this has gone, because this is a territory that's core to my work that we haven't gotten to speak of, and it's core to my work for a reason, because it really intertwines and interconnects so many different things. And this call to the masculine is one that I pursue and I speak to consistently. And I think that it's great that it's here. This is also why having this level of engagement between a man and a woman and around evolutionary topics is just a beautiful container to then speak larger, louder volumes and ripple effects into this collective that needs to hear it, that really deeply needs to hear it.
And it's coming across so very clear that no one's going to be able to listen and say, oh, she's just lonely and he's given up on this. And it's clean. It's clean. The transmission I listened to earlier, talking about clean energetics and this and that.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
want to just add in, because you brought that up, at the reason why that I'm able to make all these connections, and it's not because you were talking about, it's kind of, you don't really see someone who's that balanced, that's like bringing in love and care for all of life to include both the masculine and feminine, right? And the reason why I can do that is because I have cleared so much of the patterns, the programming, and the debris from my field, that my channel is immensely clear. So too is my embodiment. That is extremely rare.
Your
Look
embodiment
at my
walks through it.
services. Go step
Walks through
into
it.
my containers, because you're not going to find this quality of work elsewhere. Like, I'm not saying that other people aren't doing quality work, but you're not going to find what I'm doing.
And
And
I
it's
second
gonna be
that.
very hard to find this quality in just period.
I second that, and that is why I was so persistent in trying to be respectful of saying, please come on my podcast. Because I've met a lot of people. I've interacted with a bunch of different souls. I've traveled all over this country and been to a few others. And what you just said about what you bring to the table is 100% true in my experience. And also, if I turn it around and look at myself, I'm also bringing through something that no one else is.
Exactly.
The question is, can I keep focused on that long enough to actually bring it through to more than just myself and the trees? Because it's time.
Part of that process is to not allow the showered mirror effect get to you. So, for example, say you put out all these podcasts, and I'm just saying this is clearly impossible, but literally you have 0 listeners. You do not allow that to mirror the value that is here. The value that is here mirrors itself through this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It mirrors itself. Allow that to be the mirror. So if you don't see yourself creating the kind of momentum that you're desiring, that's your attachment to the outcome that you're saying, this is the only way that it's valuable. Don't take that direction. Reverse it back around and drop into the accuracy of where the value is, and you just hold it and you just keep showing up for it. And when you do that, that's when there is creation. That's actually where the masculine steps in with his provision to physicalize your soulful purpose. And that does take some time to create that kind of momentum. And so you don't allow the showered mirror effect to create into your reality. You hold the truth that is, and you will let that build the momentum that then physicalizes that soulful reality.
And the truth is, there's more value in this conversation just between me and you right now for me than whatever happens with this. I mean, my computer could crash right now. The recording's gone, but I still got to have the conversation, and it's of immense value, as you said. And it's the interactions that we have with one another that really matters in life. You die, it doesn't matter what car you drove, this and that. What matters is, who did you mean what to and why?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we're so disconnected, all of us.
Well, this is part of the journey, right? That I'm speaking of, because we are actually moving from fragmentation back into unification. And I'm not talking about just here on Earth. This is actually something that creation itself it hasn't happened yet. We are being called into, see, the fragmentation was the dark part that happened, that came from, like, for example, when I talked about this decision that I made of, hey, sovereignty, like separateness, let's take this journey, let's experiment. That was like the fallout that happened. But when that is shifted around and it brings itself back into a state of health, it becomes sovereign unity. It becomes every experience that has been happening simultaneously through various parts and pieces of creation, all happening, coming back together with greater amounts of integrative evolutionary information. This is also why, when I'm speaking to, this is what Gaia is doing. She's allowing you to be in a physical body and be everything you've ever been simultaneously. This has never happened before. This is also proven in the field itself. When I'm talking about the telepathic grids, it's because we are literally coming back to that state of collective wholeness that I was describing to you earlier, as far as where I come from as just a unified telepathic whole. But we're returning to that place with our separateness and sovereignty intact. And this is where mastery is able to be identified from your soul level history. So what you have been through all time and space, in every dimension, in every single part of creation, that is where your mastery actually is birthed. That's what it's birthed from. Okay, now because we have had the ability to take those sovereign and separate journeys, that mastery, that uniqueness of our soul that moves through us gets to be the highest contribution to the collective whole that is now reunifying in conjunction with each individual's higher mastery. That is where we are going. And this is also why the time is now.
The
So I want
balance
to return so that we can continue, on with some of how this all led up. I'm taking you into the future, taking you into the past, taking you into the now,
as we said earlier,
into the feminine. Right. We're gonna amplify it through layers. This is how I teach. This is how I work my transmissions. And I also want to just thank anyone who is listening, who has gotten to this point, right, who is stuck with this transition, because when you really stick it out, especially with my work, and you allow it to come to that point of completion, there will be a high level soulful initiation and activation. I also want to state this for the listeners so that all integrity, they understand that listening to this podcast, listening to this experience and this multidimensional history level is immensely valuable. And it's immensely valuable in the sense that it is going to impact their soul if they are here to fully and truly receive it. And also, if you would like to contribute to me or Ethan financially, then I invite you to do so, because you are receiving something, and where you're receiving something, when you can give, we then bring it into a state of reciprocity, which is really what we're ultimately wanting. We want our giving to return and be receiving, and our receiving to also return with its giving. This is a part of New Earth. This is a New Earth code. Okay, so with the history lesson here in my own journey, I am in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I'm going through this crucifixion portal, essentially, right? And I'm facing spiritual warfare at essentially all levels, from bio warfare to community to literal past life experiences. And simultaneously, I am somehow creating courses and offering incredible work. I don't know how I did all of that simultaneously, but I did.
On purpose.
And then I discover, because I thought I had long COVID, that actually there was mold.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that.
So the thing about
angles.
mold is that it's a mushy, right? It's spores, and there's intelligence within spores. I was calling in my true community, and those mushies in the grids and everything that was happening was reflecting to me the same thing, that this is not your true community. Even like mushies that are very like giving, right, and they're communal in nature, were saying to me, these grids are literally like black mold to your high harmonic field. It is harming you.
That's
you are dealing with intense spiritual warfare. Get out of here.
That black goo, that miasma, exactly, that you mentioned, a physical representation of it.
Exactly. And so I discovered that it was black mold, and I immediately moved out. It took me about 2 weeks, but I was moving out on my own. I was very, very ill. I had to take breaks every single time I went up the stairs because I was so fatigued. I was losing my memory. So I had like short-term like memory usage. Still I'm teaching. I don't know how I was doing it, especially when people watch my content. It makes no sense. And I was also calling in the masculine to support me within my community around me, right? Where there's a lot of community events and a lot of men who are calling themselves true divine, masculine embodiments, and no one was showing up to help me. So I had my moving date And I had asked some men to help me. And last minute, a couple of them were like, no, I can't do it. One even was kind of acting like I had never asked him, like it was very bizarre. And so it's the night before I'm going to move out. I wake up that morning, I pull my neck. And I'm sitting around looking at all these boxes, and I have been physically just absolutely beyond exhausted. So this process is taking everything I have already. And I was like, I have to get a massage. There's literally no other option. I move tomorrow. Like something's got to give here. I show up, and I've been looking, by the way, for a body worker the entire time. And you would think in this area, I would have been able to find someone. No, I was not able to find someone. I needed someone to put pure, clean hands on me, and I couldn't find anyone.
You sure you weren't in Hollywood? Sounds
Right.
like Hollywood to me.
Right.
So I'm assuming that this leads to you found someone.
I did. So I had booked this massage just like last minute, literally the day of, and I show up, and I'm always myself. I'm always myself wherever I am. I'm always myself. And I had been very clear. Like I was like, my wings, I was like, I fell as a dragon to this earth plane, and my wings are hurting so bad. And it's like pulled at my neck. And, and then this guy looks at me and he goes, you're in good company. I'm a dragon. And he does gnarly, like as in amazing body work on me that I needed deep, just immensely.
You got the
I
medicine
leave there, and I go to pick up my U-Haul so I could move, the next day. And the guy that is checking me out at the U-Haul, I see him like kind of moving his neck. And I immediately knew that where I had that point on my wings, he too also had a point that was similar on his wings, except he was angelic. I saw him, and I wasn't going to bring it up because I don't know this guy, right? But he naturally starts speaking to me, and it gets brought into conversation. And he goes, oh yeah, I know I'm angelic. And so we
I
end
love
up
the beauty of this.
right. So now I'm supposed to retrieve my dragon from the fall. And the last day before I'm moving out, I'm meeting a dragon and an angel that
To
also fell
escort
from
you.
the firmament.
To escort you through.
And they're both men. So I get back to my place, and I had a neighbor, and her son was someone who had agreed to help me move. So I get back, I'm like, I'm really hungry. I don't have my car. I go to grab dinner, and I ended up locking myself out because I didn't have my normal key ring that I would have if I was driving my car. I have to call the property manager, who, guarantee you, knew there was mold here when I moved in. I almost died from COVID, did not give a fuck, was gaslighting me the whole time, telling me I was making up, even when I told her I had tested it, found it, and had lab results. Okay, so I'm like, oh my God, I've never locked myself out before. Remember, I woke up, I pulled my neck. I also woke up, had 2 people back out last minute that I'm now trying to figure out how I'm going to even move. I have no idea how I'm going to get out of here. And this is something that kind of happens like when I'm a powerful ass light being. My dragon being in those mountains was being fed off immensely. Of course, there's going to be things that are going to try to hold me in that space, right? And this is what I was experiencing through this day. She shows up, ends up letting me in, but because I was out there, I saw my neighbor, and I spoke to him just doing a check-in. Hey, so tomorrow this time, and he goes, yeah, I might show up. And I'm like, wait. I said, I need to get clarity, because I literally need you, like literally, in order for me to move. And you committed to this. And I had done a check-in just a couple days prior, right? And so this is the masculine not showing up for the feminine, exactly what we were talking about. And this is what I was experiencing also within my day. And so I get up to my room, and I'm sitting here just kind of being like, what the fuck? And then I start feeling something open up inside of me. And I allow myself to fully move things, to fully process. So I am literally screaming screaming the missing masculine out of my body, and the ache and my dragon and my wings and all of this stuff is just screaming, purging out of me. And as I'm doing that and crying, I'm sitting in my room and I'm seeing all of these boxes that need to be filled because I haven't been able to do anything this day because I just did exactly what I described to you. That's what I've been dealing with all day. And I'm about to move out the very next day. And so I fortunately did find a couple people to help me. So I want to give, of course, shout out to the men who did show up. And the neighbor price gouged me. He had me pay a lot of money. That's how he showed up. And his mom actually convinced him to do that. So let's talk about that a little bit, because it's the wounded feminine who's not properly raising the masculine that then has him treat the feminine in an irreverent, disrespectful, take advantage kind of way and normalizes it and encourages it. And so I'm screaming, purging, sitting on my bed, seeing these boxes, and all of a sudden I start seeing myself fall through every fall I had ever fallen through within all of creation itself. And I am feeling the immensity of every single fall that brought me to my last fall, which was the fall from the firmament.
As we said, you got to walk through it, people. You got to walk through it. It's not just stories.
No, I cannot describe. I'm so good at describing things, but I cannot describe the actual pain and the ache and what that was like. I mean, it was blowing my own damn mind that level of like that particular kind of feeling had ever happened and could even move through me in this physicalized human form. And so I end up falling through the bottom of the fall. What happens when you fall through the fall? Well, one part of me pops out in New Earth. The other part of me pops out into, I'm going to use your word because I'm starting to use it. I love it. Omniverse. And I am staring, I'm floating, and I'm staring at the void that is the point of origination, the black hole, the point of origination for every fall that has ever happened.
The event horizon.
And I'm looking at it and I go, well, if I'm here, I'm going to read you and I'm going to learn everything about you and I am going to collapse you. I will be the reason why you fall. And what was shocking to me is that it was masculine. That was actually the most shocking thing to me out of the whole situation. Is that it was masculine, because typically voids are feminine. Light, masculine, dark, feminine, right? But both are a part of each other. And that's actually what creation is doing, is that the feminine is going into areas of the masculine, masculine's going into areas of the feminine, and then they're all coming back together. And then we got ultimate integrative evolution within creation itself. And so I'm like, I just read it, but I couldn't figure it out, because you can read something, then it takes you time to digest it, integrate it, interpret it, translate it, right? This all takes mastery. And so I ended up moving out, thank goodness. The next day I got myself out, and this is when Portal Pilgrimage 2 began. And I knew that Portal Pilgrimage 2 was beginning, and somehow it literally lined up with the exact day to the year prior that Portal Pilgrimage 1 had ended. And so, of course, in this process, I had to start accepting, oh my God, I called up my friend who I had joined me for part of Portal Pilgrimage 1. She had joined me in other lifetimes. Trust, her life has changed immensely because of that experience. She was religious.
You had to come face to face with the reality of.
Well, I was like, hey, I'm still in the Portal Pilgrimage. Like it didn't end.
That's trippy.
And
I thought I got to my destination. Turns out I was just a way stop along the way. And hell of a place.
Right? And I had laughed at certain things. Like, for example, I had gotten to Texas And I was working with and running a ley line all the way to the coast, all the way to the west coast of the United States. And I was like, that's good. I got it. No, baby girl, not yet. Not yet. You might be working with it, but you haven't gotten it yet.
We got to do some more strength training first.
So I fell through the bottom of the fall. And when you fall through the fall bottom is the light, the true divine masculine provision of light, unlike you haven't known it, except when you were deeply connected to it in a fully unified way. So this is me. Yes, I'm a divine feminine embodiment, but I also am literally leading divine masculine embodiment in a female body too. I'm leading evolution, period. And this is part of that process. And so when I left there, I ended up going back to a place that I was divinely brought to, did not plan on being there at all, in Portal Pilgrimage 1, and I called it the Holy Waters. It was where I received a full-blown baptism of sorts within this massive spiritual warfare that I was experiencing, including remembering when I was a native being and I was literally being hunted down as I was passing through these portals and remembering myself. There was all kinds of overlays that were happening simultaneously. And so what I did was then I also went to my friend's house. She is my soul sister. We're like family. She's been with me since 5th grade. There's no one else that has journeyed this lifetime with me who has been able to last that long with me, because I'm so evolutionary. It'll blast them out if they're not willing to see something within inside of themselves. And I went to her place where I had some stability so that I could start detoxing the mold out of my body.
Space to breathe.
I tried to do a walk the first couple days I got there, and I could barely do 2 blocks. And I was crying because it was so tough on my body to actually walk 2 blocks. And I'm also starting to emerge into the light. And this is where full was also birthed, because the beginning of full, and as you can see, I have the different locations that are on Portal Pilgrimage too. So full, my membership group, it has begun with Portal Pilgrimage 2, where I do my ley line work, I do my grid work, I do my evolutionary and integrative process, I receive information along the way, and then I share them in transmission. So I share transmissions from the clean grids into my work to help people anchor into New Earth, and also for them to hear and also experience simultaneously alongside me integrative evolutionary process on the leading edge of human consciousness and creation itself.
Without the black goose sticking to everything.
Yes, exactly. And so, this is something that's kind of been missing, because this is the part that's missing from those transmissions, is actually me speaking about and defining and really going deeply into what is the fall? What is it? Because I started while I was detoxing, I was literally also detoxing the fall out of my body. So the thing about mold is that it goes so deep within your body that it's literally going to pull up all the shadow material. It's going to pull up the trauma. It's going to pull up all that gunk, literally all the gunk from the patriarchal matrix within inside of you, if you're going to work it the way that I work it as an ultimate alchemist. And so I was threading.
You referenced the fall, the initial hit, as an atomic explosion. So what you're dealing with is purging the radiation from that experience.
Perfectly put. Yes, absolutely. And then this is the thing, is that when you see this, okay, and I know that anyone listening, they don't know to this level that I'm speaking, right? Because I'm one of the first to actually have done this. And I just want to say that, because I don't want you to confuse it with something that you've experienced and then not recognize the depth to which I am speaking, because I want you to receive the most that you can from this. So when you see on the other side of that threading, when you fall through the fall, and by the way, the point of origination for anything becomes its point of completion. So
the end is the beginning.
The fall ultimately will lead to its own collapse, because it will lead to its own demise. That's always what it was intended for, but it's also intended for this higher purpose that I've kind of spoken about with this evolutionary fragmentation leading to this sovereign unification that we will all be experiencing as ripple effects far beyond Earth and in this dimension. But when you see the other side of it, and I still don't have words for this. I have a friend that I speak to almost every day. She's the most evolutionary being that I personally know, and which is why we are friends. And I still can't get the words fully to her to have it really be understood, the different elements and the debris that remove from your field and the sight and awareness that you have in relationship to this massive paradigm shift of being basically unconsciously or subconsciously in whatever ways attached to the fall, to not being, to the point where you have ultimate sovereignty, where you're going, oh, I see you. And so, no, that actually doesn't get to interact or engage with me at all.
You're no longer addicted to the pain, comforted by the sadness of it. We get addicted to the trauma. That's why it's inflicted.
Exactly. And I teach about some of those patterns to help people move through them so that they can receive, because this is the thing. You cannot receive heaven on earth if you're not willing to actually receive it, if you are blocking it. And this is actually what we are doing. We are pushing away the masculine provision, which is the light. See, there's the penetrative light of the Father. That is what the Father of all of life. He is the light. He is the light at the end of the tunnel. He is heaven on earth. If you push him away, you can't receive him. And also he is saddened and depleted because he wants you to receive his provision. And so in order for us to actually be here and create new earth, we have to be able to receive heaven on earth. And there's a lot of people who, though they may be like healer kind of types, they loop and loop and loop into the pain and the suffering, and they keep themselves in lower dimensional spaces. They will never be recipients of new earth for as long as they continue to loop around in that and don't allow themselves to receive the true light of the Father of all of life. That is where I'm at now.
And they're constantly having to heal, an endless cycle of healing. And I'm sitting here saying, heal what? You came in whole.
We do have layers of healing, and it's needed and necessary. And at the same time, there's a way to actually engage with life in the work that is cleaner, that doesn't keep you attached nor looping. And that's what I teach people how to do. I pull people through evolutionary, integrative, and healing processes of transformation. And I do so with ease and grace, because you get to receive ease and grace while you're simultaneously deeply moving through it. So I have this kind of sight now that I didn't have before relative to this threading from the fall. And the thing about it is when I was out there in the omniverse reading this thing, I was also unraveling it. Mm-hmm. And I mean it when I say that I am its demise. I even have said to it before, I'm older than you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You're not as powerful as me. I was here before you, and I will end you. And that's the thing, is like, I am a multidimensional warrior-ess and badass. Like, I'm looking at this thing that literally has created every bit of warfare that has ever existed within inside all of creation, that has collapsed planetary systems. And I'm going to collapse you, because that's the fucking truth.
You're going back into the box.
And so I also want to bring this in because I'm talking about masculine initiation. This void being a masculine void, and I just connected it to warfare. And when I started talking about Portal Pilgrimage 1, I'm talking about masculine initiation process starting for me and the warrior, et cetera, right? All these things are connected. When we collapse the fall, warfare ends. Mm-hmm. This is also why we are collectively coming to an end on the battlefield of spiritual warfare, and heaven on earth is here. It is starting to literally arrive through beneath your feet in Gaia's ley lines in her golden code. And I know it because I put it there. It is coming through the clean and clear field of high harmonics and a telepathic grid that I too have been in contribution to, so that we become wholer within inside of ourselves and also wholer within inside of this collective. Heaven on earth is here to receive it. So you, if you are a listener and you have been taking this journey, and you are too one who has been taking this journey through multiple lifetimes, when Ethan and I are talking about the time is now, this is what I mean by this. You are finally in a place where heaven on earth is literally lifting from the soles of your feet. Your purpose is going to have the light of the masculine provision in order to feed and fuel it so that it becomes into this dimension. And this is the next stage of human evolution. I call it new earth building. The masculine is the builder. This is where we build and create it here into the physical. And so, no, dear one, if you are in your purpose and you are feeling depleted and you are questioning yourself in this moment, that heaven on earth and the light of the masculine, the creator of all of existence, is here to feed and fuel you, to move through you, to have your work, your words, your existence be here in the fullest capacity that it is in all of existence. You get to be your fullest, truest essence and live it into this physicalized dimension as your path and your purpose. And you get to receive that in this lifetime. It is your inheritance. That is code. I rhyme often when I'm speaking in code. Please just receive the deeper code if it feels resonant to you.
The time is indeed now. It's where the pressure backs off a little bit. You can breathe and stand up and stretch your legs and say, damn, I didn't know I could. I feel strong and rejuvenated. And then there's no war to fight because it was already won.
Exactly.
And in fact, the attacking forces have already left, because while this person's coming online in this one, Ashtyn's already online, and I'm over here saying I'm one of the birds of prey. So, stay hidden. Back in the box, because they talk about some period of peace after something. And it's been a while since I've read the Bible, but that weight, I think what's happening is definitely a lot more than just you or me out there, and we're all collectively lifting that weight together.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly it's not some huge burden.
Mm-hmm.
People are comfortable to come out of the cave.
I say we stretch
first.
our wings.
Yeah.
We get to stretch our wings. We get to expand in our full containers. We get to expand our light. We get to embody our light. We get to claim it. That's why when people are calling
this lived
ego,
experience,
they're confusing ego for you actually just stretching your wings and allowing yourself to exist as you are truly meant to exist. It's like we finally get breathing room. And this is the thing, is like, we have been in a war. We have been fighting for a really long time. We have been investing so much, and we haven't been receiving what we've been investing. That's just the case. But this is the time where the pendulum swings. All that investment becomes our inheritance, and our inheritance literally is heaven on earth. So you must be open in order to receive it.
Yes.
That's an important part and piece of this. But see, when we have been open before in the past, what has happened is, for example, we've been open to entity attack, and that has confused our body and rewired our system so that we then close. But I am inviting people into their openness, because now is the time to open. The war has been won. That is true. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy or not going to face any kind of resistance, but it is different. It is different than literally every lifetime before it. We need to retrain our bodies, our soma, our soul into the allowance of openness so that we get to receive our inheritance. Otherwise, we miss it.
Yeah. Being open to it. I pulled a card last night randomly from my tarot deck, and it's with a friend. This is I forget the number, but the card was victory. That was the message for me and this friend that I was speaking with last night. I was like, let's see, it's just playful, but the card was so on point, victory, because of what we were talking about. And not like victory, like, oh yeah, we beat them, but victory as in like we don't have anything to look forward to ahead of us except for victory. Should we choose to walk this path? And it's just so
I have a tattoo on my shoulder, on my right shoulder, that I got what I call my first wave of awakening. And it is a tattoo as representation for the return of the light. It is a celebration after the battle has been won. And it runs the line where I had to do that healing. It's on my shoulder, so it's all, of course, as everything deeply interconnected.
There are 2 websites that I remade after deleting everything else. The first is Reincarnated to Resist. And what I'm resisting is, I think, our own resistance to letting ourselves be. That's how you resist the powers that used to be. The second website is returnofthebirdtribes.com. Return of the light. Victory. I think of at the end of I don't know if you're familiar with the Lord of the Rings movies, but the eagles that they're riding on back home, being carried on those wings. Everything's not as dark as they've trained just to try to think what it is, but
the reason why this is also perfect is because Portal Pilgrimage 2, a main theme. So I'm actually laying down what I call a pure form cross across the entire United States, and incorporates every element, and every element both integrated with masculine and feminine in higher alignment. And right now I'm in air. So Colorado was actually that brought in the element of air, and air as its base code is masculine. Air is masculine, fire is masculine, earth and water are feminine base code. That again doesn't mean that the other is not existing within that same element, but at its base it would be feminine, or at its base it would be masculine. And so I went to the state that even its lowest elevation is the highest lowest in the entire country, and it has the highest peaks, that I've ever reached physically.
Air.
And it's air, the air element. It's also I did a lot of wing work. I'm still moving through my wings. So some transmissions in full are directly related to helping people heal their wings. So it was a lot of air and bird, lots of bird coming through for me. I actually have an entire costume because I like to use costumes to integrate my higher essence. So I was going to be for Halloween, what was it? Bird consciousness, a winged being, the consciousness of winged beings from the very first point of its origination within all of creation. And so every multidimensional outcome of that and version of that, as well as from its origination point. Hopefully that translated. So anywho, I had been gifted at one of the closer to the first places in Bryce, Utah, a falcon feather. Which is an incredible gift to receive. I receive a lot of gifts from Gaia and life around me while I'm doing grid work. Like literally, I've had a piece of kyanite fall from the sky to my feet. Like
life's in love with life is in love with you being alive and being in love with life.
Yes, and it provides. Yes.
That's the beauty. That's what I call the beauty.
So bird and wing and feather and levity and lightness are all parts of masculine initiation. And I just wanted to place that in here because we're really talking about calling in the divine masculine. And this is a part of his integrative and evolutionary process. This is also about the mental, because air is connected to the mental. So this is actually the clearing of the mental mind is happening right now. That's actually what's happening within Gaia's field, is that the clearing of the mind. We're also experiencing, because of the peace treaties, there are entities that are literally being vacuum sucked out of Gaia. Entities connect into the mental mind. That's pretty much where they embed themselves most of the time. That's also connected to the patriarchal matrix in the fall, because if any area of the bodies that it attacks, it's the mental mind. And so this is clearing the debris from the mental mind in order for us to get clear mind, clarity of spirit. What that does is connects us to the higher mind. The higher mind is actually the masculine within the omniverse. It's the clear mind. It's actually source connection. And all of these things are ways in which the masculine has been infiltrated. He's been infiltrated through his mind, and then he's been infiltrated through his source connection. So it's created disconnection from himself and the masculine element within creation, which is source itself, the father of life and all of existence. And so this is the way where the threading of the fall and the patriarchal matrix remove the masculine element from this realm of existence. Even though he is truly here at immensity, we need to be able to receive him, and thus then integrate him, and then become from him to create a new earth and a new world.
An interesting story about myself. I had a weird family experience growing up. My mother was a single mother. She died when I was 13 months old. My grandmother, who didn't even want for me to be born due to my skin color, basically, tried to put me up for adoption, but her brand new husband that she married just before I was born said, "Oh, but you like our marriage. You're either going to raise this kid and clean up this mess, or I'm going to go over here and get divorced." So he forced her into playing that role. And I had a lot of stuff in my life that people didn't have, or there's a lot of stuff in people's lives that they had that was normal, but I have something that a lot of people didn't get, and that was a true father figure who was not even blood related, but he saw me as an innocent child about to get thrown to the wolves, basically, and he says, "No, not while I'm here." And all of this really started to intensify and get really real for me. 2018 February, he passed away. My family didn't even care enough to call me. I was in Maine at the time, to call me and let me know. A friend called and said, "I'm calling to let you know because they should have, but they're not going to, and you need to know." And since that point, was really when I started to walk down this path that for 10 years prior to that, I can't believe this is this. How do I know this stuff that I'm not supposed to, and really putting the pieces together to understand the context. And the main theme that I see is there's woman after woman after woman after woman after woman, almost to the point to where it becomes the fad thing for women to do. And you see them too, but I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about women like you who are bringing forth value that, thank God, there are. And I'm saying, I wish there were more men like my father still in the world today. Whether they're working a job or speaking publicly, I want people to have that sense of character again. And it's coming back online, and I see that. And hell, I've been thinking it all day, and most of what you said here has just been a continuation of that conversation within myself. And it's just really beautiful to sit back and to realize it's dark outside right now, but the sun will rise again and again and again. And the seasons will change, the leaves will fall, and the trees will still be there because it's going to keep raining. And everything's fine, except for our minds. Because that's where we all get lost, go astray, get confused. And it's really kind of funny when I think about it like that, because it's all they got. But they can just confuse us, cause a bunch of chaos. But we cause that. What happens when we stop and we get with the flow of life?
Yes, exactly. I kept hearing, so I just want to say it because I'll hear things in the background. He breathes through you.
Hmm.
Just kept hearing it over and over. He breathes through you. And so what that was a message from this father figure that you're speaking of as this threading too of the masculine essence that is needing to continue on here. And he's saying that you receive that as an inheritance through your
Mm-hmm.
relationship, and you bring that and are that bridge here on earth. And then I was also hearing, do you understand too another layer of the importance of why you exist here, of why you stay here, of why you choose to be here? Let that be a compass point for you moving forward. I am here to be that missing element. I am needed, necessary, and essential. So I ground and I anchor and I remain here, and everything else can fuck off.
Yeah. It's really simple too, because all I got to do is walk the path, do the work, and I won't have enough mental space to get lost in the darkness. I'll be too busy doing things like this, rearranging everything. I literally rearranged my entire house for two reasons, because it needed to be moved, but mainly because I needed to shift up the patterning.
That's perfect. I teach people sometimes the tool of utilizing your house to shift things within your inner world because they're directly related. And so this is really perfect. And it's also perfect because, I've taken you through this journey with this multidimensional history, relative to the threads of the fall, relative to the versions, right? And I've also taken you into what's in the other side of that, and what that looks like and what that feels like. And so we've kind of moved through a variety of different time points and dimensions and space to bring us all the way now into this current moment, literally what is going on with evolution right now. And I shared that through also my journey with this portal pilgrimage. And then that's why we're here and arriving now to masculine initiation and also the clearing of the mind. And so you're speaking about how you are doing this within your own reality in this now moment.
Full circle.
Yes, exactly.
Um, there is I can't reach it, but it's right there. I picture that I don't draw often, but I took a pencil freehand and drew the yin yang thing on the sketch pad here, and I keep it off in the corner so that it catches my eye. And I've meditated a lot on it, just sitting there reading a book or whatever. It catches my eyes. I stop it, and I went deep enough into it to realize, oh, that's just what they call it, but that is the symbol for humanity here. And the symbol's way older than everybody's going to tell you about it. So old that I might be the only one that remembers where it comes from, but apparently not, because you're describing it. And I'm just throwing that out there for the listeners that can't see that picture that I'm not going to put in front of the camera. But I drew that at a very interesting point in my life because I needed something to focus my mind. So I drew a circle with, just freehand at me who can't draw, only to see that that's the shield for the earth. That's you and me. That's us being the immune system of the planet, healing it back to life, restoring the balance. But we need people like you that are able to break the shit down in such a logical, succinct way. Now, this has been a long message, but it's been coherent to where you say this causes this causes this causes you to not be able to think. And I might just get a little outlandish in the coming days and just be like, let anyone who has a brain think about what I'm saying. Let him who hath an ear. Do y'all even have brains? Yes, you do. You just can't use it because you've been held underwater for so long. It's so exciting. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast with me. I'm not sure if you have any more to share, but
No, we
I,
came down to a great point of completion, but of course, I would love to share some of my information for any listeners who have especially moved through the entirety of this. I really appreciate your commitment, your devotion. You're showing up for this information and being a recipient of that. And I, of course, invite you to walk that into your life.
yes.
So if my words, my person resonate with you, then feel free to find my work at trueselfembodied.com. I have an incredible membership group that is new. It is for those of you who would be resonant with my words throughout this podcast. It's a space for us to gather, to be seen, to be witnessed, to be held by a new paradigm community. New Earth anchors, builders, grid workers, and leaders are called and encouraged to join this group. Also, new awakeners who want to have quality facilitation that is clean in its energetics within an integrity container for your transformational and evolutionary process. Also, you can check me out on social, trueselfembodied.com.
It's a
You can
great
also
domain.
Thank you. You can also check me out, of course, find me on social media. My following's typically on Facebook, but I would also love to grow my following on Instagram. So you can look up Ashtyn Monea. On Instagram, it's ashtyn.monea. Feel free to check out my additional services and work, such as my art portals on my website, my intensive process. If you are called to deep, deep evolutionary work, you are a practitioner, you are a facilitator, you are an advanced being that is typically unable to be met, then know that I am here to meet you. That is what my services are for. If you want to go deep into your evolutionary transformational process and you want someone who can truly see you and support you in your integrative process, right? Just like I understand multidimensional history and the integrative and evolutionary process there, I actually can see that and be there with you in your process too. And so I do have seer single sessions. I have my intensive process. And for those who want ongoing and longer work, I do offer that to high-level initiates. So yeah, do check out my work. Do step into my containers. You will, of course, not regret it.
I definitely do not regret turning this computer on and figuring out the sound and all that stuff to not be late, because this has been I've not had a conversation like this with anyone in this lifetime. And it's definitely what I needed, and it's definitely what I wanted to bring to my podcast, the Omniversal Media. And Omniversal Media, the idea is to become so supernaturally relevant with the content that suddenly all of the other media, which is fucking with our minds, just kind of becomes irrelevant as a whole. And we grow into something that is new and wholesome, because you offering to facilitate guidance for those who are just stepping into opening their eyes for the first time, that is so imperative, and nobody talks about it or anything. But all I see is one day somebody's gonna flip the switch somewhere, and you're gonna have 500 people all at once come online and with no context for understanding. And where are so everyone listening, if this has really gotten to you, please reach out, go to her website, get in touch, find the others. trueselfembodied.com. Well, I hope I could talk you into this again sometime. I'm excited to see where it goes from here, because I'm very much aware that everything that I got from listening to you and everything that everybody else will get from listening to this doesn't really start taking effect until like 2 or 3 days down the line, when the codes really
and
sink
it'll
in.
actually sync up with years of evolutionary and integrative process for people. This is not a normal podcast. This is a transmission of the soul. This is an initiation and activation. And so that's also why I offer my services, because in all integrity, I can't show up to something like this, a podcast, and not also offer my extending services to support people through the initiation and activation and integrative process that follows something like receiving this kind of high level knowledge and transmission.
That's the reason I bring guests on here, is because whatever I have to offer, my true gift is finding people who have very specific medicine and connecting them up with people who I can't assist them in that way, but I know who can. And I want them to connect with you if they're connecting, and I don't want them to just say, well, that was nice, and then never and just try to pretend this didn't happen, because 3 days from now you're not going to be able to pretend it didn't happen.
Right.
Because the soul within you that brought you here to make you listen to this is going to say, hey, you remember that? Well, guess what? I don't know, they might walk past you in the street or something. Be like, what life gets weird when you're being weird with it. I'm gonna let you go, but thank you very much. I've enjoyed this, and jumping back into the podcasting stuff after a year, this is a great way to start. This is episode 7, by the way.
Calling you into heaven. That's what 7's about, y'all.
Each Friday there's a new episode. Thank you again. I did a part of this. We're not worthy, but this is the type of conversation I look forward to having with everybody I encounter from here on out, because the time is now.
Yeah.
I just hope I can show up
for doing what you're doing to facilitate this conversation, and doing the behind the scenes work to also get it out, because that too might not be seen, but it definitely matters.
And on that note, anybody else who is a behind the scenes worker that wants to be involved, please go to my website and find a way to contact me, because I get stuck here for hours playing with the website and I don't know what I'm doing. I can make it work, but you probably specialize in that or something. We should all work together, because we're all in this together, and it's kind of silly that it took this long to figure that out.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure inviting you all into your remembrance and into the heaven that is New Earth creation.